Good morning, folks. As y'all come in, give your locations in the comments. We'll get started in a moment. Locations in the comments, folks. Locations in the comments. That comment I just posted, somebody can pin that one. If y'all can see it, text for daily motivation. It'll be laid out that way, then people know what the number is for. 305-384-6894. Give me your locations as y'all come into. As y'all come in, give me your locations. Locations as y'all come in. I put a comment in here in Rumble Studio. It's not showing up at all. Let's see. Let's try this again. One more time in Rumble Studio. It's still not coming up. But we are live in Rumble Studio. It says we are live here. Let me check. See what I can see. Yes, looks like we are live in Rumble Studio. Let's check over on YouTube. Yes, it is live. Let me check on X. And we are live on X. Good morning. We are live on Facebook, Facebook.com/Work on Your Game University. We are live on LinkedIn. My name on LinkedIn, X, YouTube, and Rumble is the same. It is Dre all day. Facebook, Work on Your Game University. We're live on Instagram at Dre Baldwin. Good morning. Live on TikTok at Work on Your Game. Give me your locations as y'all are coming in. Locations as y'all are coming in, where y'all are checking in from. And the topic here today is a Supreme Court ruling where it looks like we're going to discuss this. The Trump administration now is allowed to legally racially profile people in Los Angeles. That's what it's looking like. Now, we're going to talk about it. Is the Trump administration allowed to legally racially profile people in LA while Tom Homan and Kristi Noem and company go hunting people down as ICE detainees? We're going to talk about it. That's the topic here today. US Sane 6 checking in from Minnesota 612. Good morning. As y'all are coming in, shout yourselves out in the comments section. Give me your locations in the comments as y'all come in. Courtney, good morning. Thank you for coming in early. Carla, Indiana 70. Good morning. Marky Man 007. Good morning. Courtney, congrats on the gifter badge. Early gifter badge. 140.6 Walnut Creek, California. Good morning. Marky Man from Sacramento is in here. Willa Vilas from Tampa. Shout out to Tampa. Beautiful place. Jacques or Jackie, I don't know which one it is. Good morning. Checking in from New York. Shout out to New York. Gene from New York. Ken Jussix from Medina, Ohio. Good morning. All right, we don't have to pin the number anymore. I'll tell people more about it later. Thanks for pinning that, Courtney. Karen Bishop, good morning. Angelica said, oof, what's that for? Giga Dad, good morning from North Carolina. Ken from Ohio, good morning. Good morning, Angelica. Mari M from San Antonio. Good morning. Well, the comment is the one that I posted. Can y'all see when I post the comment? I'm gonna post it again. I think people can't see my comment because I want it to be laid out in a certain format. Just a number without the context, people don't understand what it's for. I just posted a comment right there. I don't know if people can see that. But if you can't see it, then we'll have to figure something else out. I just posted a comment. Kuya bin Yashara from Manson, North Carolina. Good morning. See, I think maybe y'all can't see it. I can see it, but I don't think everybody can see it. Tony Chopper from Dallas, Texas. Good morning. Yeah, it's not coming through for whatever reason. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out later. So what it needs to say is text for daily motivation, then the phone number. But the phone number without context, people don't know what it means. So it's text for daily motivation, then the phone number. And a fire emoji can help too. That's the way that I post it. So let me see if I can show y'all how I do it. Let me see. I'm going to leave a comment on my X post. See if this is the wrong thing. Not that. So it looks like this. Text for daily motivation with the fire emoji, then the phone number. And then I use the phone emoji. So then people get the context. They know what it means. I'm showing this to people over on TikTok. The moderators can't see my comments. And for whatever reason, I can't pin my own comment on TikTok. I don't know why. And let me just get that sent. And then that's the one that we can pin if we can get that format proper. But the format's not proper. We'll figure something else out. Actually, this is where I could use the boards. I go back to using the boards on TikTok. That's what I need to do. Get the boards back on here. I stopped using them because they were not useful. Maybe TikTok made it better. Vancouver, Washington. Mark, good morning. Angelica said the topic is touchy, no? Well, yes, the topic is always touchy, Angelica. That's the point. That's the very point. That's the reason why I do these. If it wasn't a touchy topic, it wouldn't be interesting. What makes it interesting is the fact that it's touchy. So yes, it is very touchy. Super touchy. Don Johnson, 3453 from Findlay, Ohio. Good morning. Karina said, you got the text this morning? That must mean you're getting the daily motivation text. Shout out to everybody getting the daily motivation text, which I sent out this morning. Let me make sure I sent that to the right group. Hope I didn't send it to the wrong people. Actually, I know I didn't because I scheduled it myself. Then I sent out, let's see. Yes, 8 a.m. Yes, a member of the daily motivation text. So some people get the daily motivation, some get the weekly motivation only, some are getting both. So if you're in the daily motivation list, you got it. Karina, good morning. Glad you got it. Newburgh, New York. Carol Ann Collins, good morning. Murphy the Muck, good morning from Bristol, Tennessee. NASCAR Town of the Week. What event is happening there? Aaliyah Gibson, 585, GOAT. Are you talking about me? If so, thank you. Ron Johnson, Lima, Ohio. T-Mac said that's a huge spider at the top shelf between the cat and red book. A huge spider. There's a spider up there. I don't see it. Where'd he go? Did it run away? Wayne Robinson, Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. Marky said explosive to the touch. Maybe. I mean, it's not even so much a direct Donald Trump topic. I think those ones are more touchy than anyone's. It's not direct Donald Trump. He's involved, but it's not really about him. Frederick Sullivan from Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Good morning to you. Boga Vilas said, sorry to see it. Sorry to see what? What happened? So the topic here today, just to give you all more context. And by the way, Rumble Studio looks like YouTube is working now, but for whatever reason, I'm still trying to put a comment up here, and it's not coming through. So
what comment?
A comment that I'm trying to post in Rumble Studio. It's not coming up in the live chat on Rumble Studio. I don't know what the problem is. But my YouTube channel, where we do the replays to all of these, I'm live on YouTube right now, by the way. My YouTube is at Dre All Day. We finally got that channel monetized. This is a new YouTube channel. I got more than one channel, but this newer channel, we finally got it monetized. So I might start using YouTube Studio so we can get the super chats and stuff on YouTube. But for now, we're sticking with Rumble Studio, at least for today. I might get to that tomorrow because we just got the monetization turned on for that. So on September 8th, don't put that on the fan. On September 8th, which was yesterday, the U.S. Supreme Court issued a 6-3 decision without written reasoning that lifted a lower court's restraining order that had barred ICE, That's the customs enforcement. This is Tom Homan and company. These are people who are doing all the deportations. That it had barred them from conducting immigration stops in LA based on race, language, job, or location. So a court had basically told ICE, you cannot do stops. You cannot stop people just based on judging them by their race, the language they speak, the job they work at, or at a certain location. In other words, the court told ICE you cannot profile people based on these things. The Supreme Court just yesterday said, yes, you can. Supreme Court just told ICE you can profile people based on race, language, job, and location. That sounds crazy if we don't get into the details of why they would do this or how this came about. That's what we're talking about here today. So this ruling effectively is permitting racial profiling under a quote unquote totality of circumstances standard, meaning that ethnicity can be one of the relevant factors amongst other factors for why ICE can just stop a person on the street. They are allowing racial profiling. Now, the ruling was issued via the shadow docket. I never heard of the shadow docket. Any of you ever heard of the shadow docket? If not, you've heard of it now. The shadow docket is a fast track, no argument emergency process that bypasses normal deliberations. This all happened with the Supreme Court yesterday. So they have a shadow docket. So any of you had any reasons that you may not trust the United States government or the legal system, both of which I've told you not to put your trust in and keep yourself out of being entangled with at all costs. They have a thing called the shadow docket. In other words, they can fast track and have an emergency process, not have normal deliberations, and they don't have to even give you a written reason or argument to come to a conclusion, and you are bound by that conclusion because the Supreme Court is the highest court in the country. They have this thing that we didn't even know they had. We all just found out yesterday. There's a thing called the shadow docket. Now, Justice Kavanaugh, remember him, right? Justice Kavanaugh, he's the one who was brought in during I believe, the first Trump administration, and there were all these allegations of allegedly he did this to this woman in college in like 1980 and something like that, and he made it through. Justice Kavanaugh has been on the court since then. His concurrence argued that the government has a credible case and that contextual indicators, like what type of work you do or the language that you speak, could form reasonable suspicion. This is a very interesting topic here today. Now, Justice Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson, of course, we could all pretty much predict this. These are the three leftist-leaning judges on the Supreme Court right now. Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson. They strongly dissented. They called the ruling a dangerous erosion of Fourth Amendment protections. Let's be clear what the Fourth Amendment is. Let's look it up so we can read it in detail. Explain to me what the Fourth Amendment is and why Justices Kagan, Sotomayor, and Jackson strongly argued that the Supreme Court's ruling from yesterday is going against the Fourth Amendment. I'm going to give ChatGPT a chance on this one. Usually Grok is better with the current events, but let's see what ChatGPT said. ChatGPT tends to produce answers faster, but they're still taking their minute right now. We'll get back to that in a second. So the decision drew swift backlash. Of course, who do y'all think gave backlash to this decision? First of all, Governor Gavin Newsom, because this is all based in California, so it's based in LA. So Gavin Newsom, swift backlash, of course. LA Mayor Karen Bass, of course. The ACLU, okay. And MALDEF. I don't know who MALDEF is. We'll find out who MALDEF is. So some of y'all may know who MALDEF is. I've never heard of MALDEF, but we will find that out in a moment. So the Fourth Amendment protects against unreasonable searches and seizures. It ensures that law enforcement must typically have probable cause and often a warrant before stopping, searching, or detaining you. It's a core safeguard for personal privacy and bodily integrity. That's what the Fourth Amendment is. I am an absolutist when it comes to rules, standards, and parameters, and the Fourth Amendment says what it says. So it's not even about whether any of us agree with it or not. That's what it says. Unreasonable searches and seizures that law enforcement must have. Now is a different part to this. Law enforcement must have probable cause before stopping, searching, or detaining you. So what the Supreme Court said yesterday, Justice Kavanaugh, he's the one who gave a concurrence. He said that this is probable cause. His words were credible cause because of contextual indicators like where you work, the language you speak. These create enough reasonable suspicion that ICE agents can stop you in the street with no other information, just where you work, the language you speak, where you're working at, location. That's enough reason that ICE can stop you. And what Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson, 3 justices on the Supreme Court, they dissented because there's 3 of them on the left, 6 of them are from the right. They said that this is an erosion of the Fourth Amendment protection. Well, it depends on how you interpret this. I've explained this to you all many times, that the way that the law works is it's often not a black and white thing, because there are different ways you can interpret the exact same language. So Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson are interpreting the Fourth Amendment to say no unreasonable search and seizure, period. Whereas Kagan and other justices on the Supreme Court are saying, yes, no unreasonable searches and seizures because you need probable cause. And they're saying, Kavanaugh said this, there is probable cause. Probable cause is where you work, the language you speak, what you look like, and the location of where things are happening. That is probable cause. So it becomes this argument of interpretation. And when it comes down to this, that's the reason why you have 9 justices on the Supreme Court, because it's going to lean one way or another at every point. And right now, things are leaning more towards, I guess, what most people would say towards the right, because 6 of these justices are conservative justices and 3 of them are liberal justices. That's the situation right now. So this is a core safeguard for personal privacy and bodily integrity. I agree. At the same time, let's look at the interpretation. So the Supreme Court issued this emergency ruling that allow ICE to resume these roving patrols. That's what ICE calls it, roving patrols, where they're basically rolling around the streets and they can stop and interrogate any person they see on the streets of Los Angeles based on race, the language you speak, or where they happen to run into you. That's interesting. Let me take a sip of water while I just think about that. I know this is not brand new. This has been happening. And there's a lot of factors that go into this. We're going to talk about all that here today. This is going to be an interesting conversation, because there are strong arguments on both sides of this conversation. And I'm going to help everybody understand what they are. That right now in LA, ICE agents can roll around based on just looking at you and the language you speak and where they happen to see you at. They can just stop you. And it's basically like stop and frisk, where how they had in New York, the stop and frisk. And there are arguments for stop and frisk. Right? One argument on one side was, well, stop and frisk brought down crime, and a lot of criminals got caught, and a lot of guns got taken off the street, and a lot of people got arrested who otherwise may have been or were about to do crime. But the other argument against stop and frisk is that you're stopping and frisking people for no reason. You're basically profiling people, often black people, often in black communities, based on the presumption that they might be doing crime, even though all they're doing is walking down the street and they happen to be black at the same time. So they were getting stopped and detained for walking while black. That is a violation of the Fourth Amendment. There are strong arguments on both sides of this conversation, because stop and frisk, if you want to look at the crime data, stop and frisk with Rudy Giuliani, theoretically, not even theoretically, that's the wrong word. If we look at the data, stop and frisk worked. But if we look at how it affected people's lives, stop and frisk was not a good idea. Because again, you could just be walking down the street as a black person and get stopped just because you're black. And the cops say, hey, this is a neighborhood where crime happens. You're black, and most of the crime is being done by black people in this neighborhood. You're black in this neighborhood, so we're going to stop you and frisk you, even though you didn't do anything. And I can understand how that everybody here listening to this, whether you're black, white, whatever, should be able to understand how some people can have a serious problem with that. And what's happening in LA now is the Supreme Court, the highest court in the country. There's no appeal after the Supreme Court makes a decision. That's why this is a big story. The Supreme Court said ICE can do just this based on looking at what you look like, the language you speak, where you're at, and where you work. We can just stop you for no reason and check to see if you have papers, or detain you if we want to. And this is very interesting. This is interesting. Let's get into this. This is a lot that needs to be talked about here today. Now, a lower court had said you can't do that, and the Supreme Court now said you can. Now, though the ruling did not explicitly change the Fourth Amendment, it didn't change the Constitution. Of course, there's going to be a lot of language that says the Trump administration is violating, changing, adjusting the Constitution as necessary. And they had a Supreme Court on their side, helping them violate the Constitution whenever they feel like it. That's what dissenters of this are going to say. I can write their arguments for them if they ask me to. Now, by allowing these stops based on these broad stereotypical traits. So in New York, stop and frisk was black people in black neighborhoods. Now, this thing with ICE is Latin people in heavily Latin areas where they have the ICE agents have reasonable suspicion that, hey, we have found undocumented people in this area before who look like you. So you know what? We're going to stop you because you might be the next one that we need to stop. I can understand how that sounds crazy. I can understand how that sounds crazy. But we're going to get into this again. I'm just getting started here, folks. This undermines the requirement for individualized suspicion and opens the door to discriminatory enforcement practices. Let's just pause right there. Let me say that sentence one more time. This opens the door. The decision by the Supreme Court opens the door for individualized, it undermines the requirement, for individualized suspicion. Is that true? Yes, it is. That's true. Again, the same way that Stop and Frisk said, if you're in a neighborhood where crime happens often and the crime is being done by black men and you're a black man walking in this neighborhood, even if you're not doing anything, because you fit the description, now we're going to stop you. I could be really pissed off about that if I'm one of the people who gets stopped. I understand the premise, but at the same time, it sounds good when it's not happening to you. It's a whole other thing when it's happening to you. So I understand how some people can be really pissed off about this one, or let's say Stop and Frisk. I'm using that as an example because all of you heard of it and know what it means. This is what they're doing to Latin people in Los Angeles right now. And the Supreme Court just told them they can do it. Now, it also opens the door to discriminatory enforcement practices. Is this a discriminatory enforcement practice? Well, yes, it is. At the same time, let's be clear. Just because you are using a discriminatory enforcement practice does not mean that you're wrong. All right. To discriminate just means I'm going to make it's discernment. I'm going to make a judgment call based on what I've seen in the past about what I'm seeing in the present. That's what discriminatory means. And they're enforcing the law or hoping to enforce the law based on the discernment of what we've seen in the past. Is that a reasonable cause, as we say, or probable cause for ICE agents to do what they're doing? The answer is yes, it is. While at the same time, on the other hand, somebody can say, well, at the same time, that means you're just stopping people just because they look like a certain person and you're treating them as if they may be a suspect, even though they aren't a suspect. Is that also true? Yes, it is. So there's no right answer here. There's just a lot of arguments to be made, which is the reason why I ended up in the Supreme Court. So the three justices on the Supreme Court who dissented, Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson, they said you're undermining the Fourth Amendment. You're enabling racial profiling. I don't know about undermining the Fourth Amendment, but is this racial profiling? Yes. Is this racial profiling? Yes, it is. This is racial profiling, plain and simple. Stop and Frisk in New York was racial profiling. Is this racial profiling ICE is going to be doing in Los Angeles? Yes. That doesn't mean it's wrong necessarily. Let's get into that. Now, ICE is going to be able to stop people, again, as we already talked about, based on how they look, based on appearance. Justice Sotomayor said that this decision is a grave misuse of our emergency dockets. And she warned, this is out of the quote now, it erodes constitutional freedoms. And then she said, and Sotomayor is Latin herself, so she says, quote, we should not have to live in a country where the government can seize anyone who looks Latino, speaks Spanish, and appears to work a low-wage job, period, close quote. Now, I understand Sotomayor. I mean, what the hell else is she going to say? I mean, she is Latin and she is on the Supreme Court. And I understand. If I'm Sotomayor, I'll probably say the exact same thing and really mean it. I believe that she means this. I don't think she's posturing. I think she really means this. And the MALDEF is the Mexican American Legal Defense and Educational Fund. Any of you ever heard of them? I never heard of these people. MALDEF, Mexican American Legal Defense and Educational Fund, because a lot of these people are Mexicans. It's a nonprofit organization that's been around since 1968 as a champion for the Latino community in the United States on the legal side. So this is the law firm of the Latino community. Did not know who they were, but okay, that's who they are. So now we got that on the table. They're all accusing the court of enabling unconstitutional race-based detentions. This is an interesting one. I said that 3 times already. This is a hard one to talk about. Actually, it's an easy one to talk about because I know how to make arguments for both sides of a conversation. Let me introduce myself. Then we'll get into the meat and potatoes of this. That was just an introduction, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day, former 9-year pro athlete, author of a few books, done a couple TED Talks, run this company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. What we do over here is help people learn how to command the room through your energy, presence, and aura based on your discipline, confidence, performance, and the systems that you operate by. You can learn more about working with me by going to the links in my profile. You can get into my texting community completely for free. I send a text out every day called the Daily Motivation. I send one out every week called the Weekly Motivation. And those are pretty easily understood, daily and weekly motivation. Text me at my number, 305-384-6894. 305-384-6894. If you look in the profile, whatever app you're watching me on, you'll see that phone number in there. I am live on 7 different platforms right now: TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, X, and Rumble. My replays are always on YouTube. And that's all y'all need to know. We're going to get into this material. We're going to get to responding to the comments later on. Make sure you are following me and like the live. If you're watching this on TikTok, like the live. We're at 50,000 likes already. This sounds like a 200,000 like day. I don't know. I'm just feeling it. I'm feeling 200,000 likes today. We're at 50 already. I'm feeling like we're going to get the 200,000 likes here, everybody. Do not make me be wrong after I just announced that. 200,000 likes is what I'm expecting. So before I even get into the context of the points, let me just say off the top, if I'm a Latin person living in Los Angeles and I just saw this ruling that says I could be stopped in the street by ICE agents under suspicion that I might be an illegal immigrant just because I'm Latin and because I'm speaking Spanish or because I'm hanging around a neighborhood where people who are illegal have been caught in the past, I'm like, that's not supposed to happen in the United States of America. On the surface, let me make my entire argument here before you get mad at me. On the surface, that's not supposed to happen in the United States. That's the reason why we had a Fourth Amendment. Fourth Amendment says you should not be, what's the word I'm looking for? Susceptible to unlawful search and seizure. You cannot stop me just because of who I am or what I look like or the language that I speak. That's not supposed to happen in the United States of America. This is supposed to be the land of the free. And we are free to move about and be as we are. I could be whatever religion. I could wear whatever clothes I want. I could be whatever color I want to be, speak whatever language I want to speak, practice whatever religion I want to practice. And I should not be held susceptible to anything that some law enforcement agent wants to do just because of some surface level trait. That's not supposed to happen. That's the reason why we have probable cause in the United States of America. On the other hand, and here's where we got to hold your leaders over there in California responsible. We got any Californians listening to this? All right, your mayor and your governor, especially Los Angelinos, we're going to get to your mayor and your governor in this point right here. On the other hand, if ICE says, first of all, ICE is doing the work of who? Tom Homan. Tom Homan is working for who? Donald Trump. Donald Trump campaigned on what? We're going to enforce our borders. We're going to build a wall. That is a metaphor. Build a wall. We're going to enforce our borders. We're going to enforce our immigration laws. And if you're in this country without proper documentation, we're going to get you and you got to go. Everybody agrees to that. Donald Trump said that. Donald Trump's doing it. He sent Tom Homan and Kristi Noem to do the job. And they're trying to do that job. And they're doing what the president told them to do. The citizens of America, through an election, democratic, free and fair electoral process, we elected Donald Trump. Donald Trump said this is what he's going to do. He's doing what he said he was going to do. Nobody can be, well, you can be mad at it, but you can't say it's unjust and unfair because he told you exactly what he was going to do. Now he's doing it. That's what he said. He said that in 2015. He said it in 2024. He's doing it in 2025. He wants to get anybody without proper documentation out of the country. Does he have a right to do that? Yes. Does this make logical sense? Yes. Why? Because every other country in the world, I'm sure there are many people listening to this who are from other countries. You have family members from other countries. Many of you have visited other countries. You understand other countries in the world. If you don't have proper documentation and you're just hanging out and they find out, there is a harsh penalty. Usually you get sent to jail first, then they kick you out and then they let you know you can't come back for a certain period of time. America allegedly has those laws too. A lot of people don't know that because it doesn't seem like we do, but we do. I've seen it happen to people. So Donald Trump is getting these laws enforced, and they said we're going to go find these people who are in here without proper documentation. On its surface, what I just explained, we're going to get the people without proper documentation, get them out. Is that wrong? No, it's not wrong. It's not wrong because, again, we have laws. If you're in Brazil without proper documentation and Brazilian authorities find out, guess what they do? They come get you, they detain you, then they kick you out. They put you on a plane and they say, don't come back here for 10 years. You cannot come back to this country for 10 years. You're banned. Why? Because you violated our laws. America, again, the exact same thing. I get the argument from the political left. Often the argument is, well, America is a country of immigrants. That is not true. America is a country of citizens, not immigrants. Immigrants who come to the United States, the main thing they want to do is become citizens. They want to get citizenship. You want documentation that says I'm an American citizen. I can get an American passport and I don't have to worry about when my visa expires or my visit time expires or whatever way you got here temporarily. You don't have to worry about expiring because you're a citizen, which means you belong in this country and this country belongs to you. So every immigrant wants to become a citizen. Immigrants don't want to just stay immigrants. They want to become citizens. So America is not a country of immigrants. America is a country of citizens. Some may say that that's semantics and splitting hairs. I say, you're right. It is semantics and semantics matter. Words matter. Citizen matters. A citizen it has a higher level of status than an immigrant. That's just the reality of the situation. And everybody understands that, whether you want to agree with it on the surface or not. Now, Donald Trump is going to get these people without proper documentation out of the country. And the political left says, well, we're a country of immigrants. We already addressed that. And the political left, here's where they have messed up. And here's where we bring into your mayor, Karen Bass, and we bring your governor, Gavin Newsom, Californians, into this conversation. Because they're both on the political left, strongly on the political left. California is on the political left. It's literally on the geographical left of the United States of America. And here's where they messed up. For those of you who are on the left, here's where they, your representatives, here's where they messed up. They decided 10 years ago, and they're still doing it now, that anything Donald Trump says or does, they're going to strongly oppose it and pick the opposite argument no matter what he says. This is a bad strategic move. I understand why they did it in 2016. I understood why they did it in 2020. I do not understand why they're still doing it in 2025. He can't win another election. He can't run in another election. Why are you building your whole base around anything Donald Trump says, we're going to oppose it? This is a bad idea. Gavin Newsom, allegedly, over the last month or so, has picked up all this steam, and he's so popular and he's winning in polls against Donald Trump. How you win in a poll against Donald Trump? Donald Trump's not running for anything. It doesn't make any sense. But this is what the paid Democratic influencers on X, I follow several of them, they're all telling you how Gavin Newsom is doing so great because he's, quote unquote, standing up to Trump. Well, first of all, you're the governor, 1 of 50. He's the president, 1 of 1. So how are you standing up to him? You're not even on the same level. It doesn't make any sense. But the political left has done this. Karen Bass did it in LA as a mayor, and she's 1 of 1,000. And Gavin Newsom's doing it as a governor. He's 1 of 50. Donald Trump is 1 of 1. And their whole stance is whatever Trump's doing, we're going to push back against it. So Donald Trump says we're sending ICE into LA, and we're going to get people who are in there without proper documentation to get them out. And Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass says, well, no, we're going to stop this from happening. And citizens in LA are coming out and they're protesting and they're fighting and they're allegedly beating back ICE from doing their job. I highly doubt that. Sounds good, but I doubt that's what's happening. Why would you do this? This just doesn't make rational sense. America is a country of citizens. If you have proper documentation, no matter what color you are, no matter what religion you are, you belong in America, you got proper documentation, then you're good. If you don't have proper documentation, you're in this country without proper paperwork, they catch you, you got to go. Again, this is what happens everywhere in the world. That's the rule. It's not even the rule, it's the law. You can break a rule and get away with it. You break the law, you get caught, there's a penalty. That's the way it works. So people in LA and California, not because they think it's necessarily all of a sudden we're not going to enforce our laws anymore. That's not the reason why they're opposing this. They're opposing this because it has Donald Trump's stamp on it. They're opposing it because, oh, Donald Trump said it, so we got to go against it. That's the mistake. That's the strategic error that people on the political left are making right now. That because Donald Trump did it, because Donald Trump said it, now we're going to oppose deporting anybody who's here without proper documentation. Lest we forget, ladies and gentlemen, in the last 25 years, what president deported the most people? Put his name in the comments. I'll give you a hint. It ain't Donald Trump. And he's on his second term. We've only had in this century, just this century, we had Bush, we had Obama, we had Trump, we had Biden. We only have 4 presidents in 25 years. Who deported the most people? Everybody knows the answer. Barack Obama deported the most people, not Donald Trump, Barack Obama. Now, how many people were opposing deportations when Barack Obama was doing it? I didn't even know he was doing it when he was president. I didn't know. I didn't really hear much about it. I didn't hear much about anything Barack Obama was doing. And when I say Barack Obama or Donald Trump, what I mean is their administrations. I don't mean them personally. Donald Trump's not personally putting anybody on the plane. But I didn't hear anything about Barack Obama's deportations when he was doing it. But ever since Trump came in office, all of a sudden, enforcing the laws at the border, all of a sudden is a problem. All of a sudden, deporting people who don't have proper documentation is a problem. All of a sudden, we're a country of immigrants, and anybody who came here, whether with proper documentation or improper documentation, all of a sudden, we can't do anything about these people. I never heard this during 8 years of Barack Obama presidency. I didn't hear it during 4 years of Joe Biden presidency, which is a different type of thing because they weren't deporting anybody. Didn't look like they were. They were importing. They weren't deporting. They were importing. Barack Obama was doing a whole lot of deportation. I didn't hear anybody say anything. Y'all hear anybody say anything? I hear nothing. What about y'all? Y'all hear anything? I didn't hear anybody on the right or the left say anything about deportations during Barack Obama's time. But all of a sudden, there's a problem now. So this whole concept of it's racial profiling. Is this racial profiling? First of all, let me say it again. Yes. This is racial profiling. Supreme Court just said it is okay for ICE to racially profile Latinos in Los Angeles. They said that. They didn't say that in so many words, but they said it. Now, I'm interpreting that. That's what they said. Now, racial profiling is not necessarily a bad thing. I'll give you an example. I'm a black man. I live in the United States of America. I'm from the hood. I don't live in the hood anymore, but I'm from the hood. If I'm walking late at night and I see a bunch of black males, young black males standing on the corner somewhere that I'm walking towards, I'm not crossing the street. But I am a little bit more aware if I see some young black males standing on that corner than if I see a bunch of young white females standing on that same corner. And all of you would agree and probably concur and say the exact same thing yourself, even if you're not crossing the street, even if you're a man, even if you're Second Amendment abider and you got it with you, you're still a little bit more aware based on who you see on the corner. Why? Is that racial profiling? Yeah, it's racial profiling. Yes. I said, if I see a bunch of young black males versus a bunch of young white females, I'm looking at that situation differently. Why? Does race have anything to do with it? Yes. Yes, race has something to do with that. Is that racial profiling? Yes. Is that okay? Yes. Why? Because human beings, we have to be discerning. Discernment is necessary for us to survive. We have to discern. When we come across something, we have to discern, is this a friend or a foe? Should I fight? Should I run? Should I freeze? We have to make these decisions without consciously thinking. Instinctively, we make these decisions all day, every day, especially when we're out in public. We make decisions about people based on what we see in our past experiences. This is very true, and we all know it, whether you want to admit it or not. So ICE, now, again, that's not the same thing ICE is doing. ICE is racially profiling. I gave that example to help you understand that racially profiling on its surface is not necessarily a negative thing. Now, should the police officers and law enforcement be racially profiling? On its surface, absolutely not. However, probable cause, as Justice Kavanaugh said, that he didn't say this in so many words. Again, I'm interpreting this and paraphrasing it. Justice Kavanaugh and the other 5 justices on the affirming side of this ruling, they are saying, again, not in their words, my words, that ICE has come up with a profile of the type of people who get deported. Are they white people? No. Are they black people? No. It's usually Latin people, often from Mexico. That's heavily populated in California. And they may be living in lower income communities, working entry wage jobs, maybe getting paid under the table. They often are speaking Spanish, may not even be able to speak English. And we know what a Latin person looks like. I can look at a Latin person and say that person's Latin. I look at a Mexican and say that person's probably Mexican if I'm in LA, and I can discern them from a black person, a white person, an Asian person. I can tell the difference. And ICE is saying, we're going to profile people based on these traits, and we're going to round them up because in our experience, our discernment says if we round up enough of these, we're going to get a handful of them who are illegals. And our literal job, as handed down to us by on high, the President of America, President of the United States of America, is we got to get these people, detain them, and ship them out. Why? Because the president told us that's what we got to do. Why is it okay to do what the president said to do? Because the American citizens, through a free and fair democratic election process, chose that man to be the leader, and this is what he told us to do. So we are just doing our job. Period. You might not like the job somebody's doing, but you can't knock them from doing their job. ICE is not your problem. Those of you who are disagreeing with what's happening today or what the Supreme Court ruled yesterday, don't be mad at ICE. All ICE is doing is their job. ICE is just doing what they're supposed to do. If you want to be mad, you need to be mad at your fellow Americans who voted for, and when I say who voted for Donald Trump in 2024 in November, right? Because had it been Kamala Harris, this wouldn't be happening. Kamala Harris didn't win. Donald Trump won. And the border and immigration was a huge point of dissension between the two candidates in 2024. We all can agree to that. Yes? Okay. So when the election happened, we know that there are certain states that always vote Democrat, such as California. There are certain states that always vote Republican, such as Texas. And there are a bunch of states where it could go either way, also known as the swing states. Everybody knows what happened in November 2024. Everybody knows what happened on November 5th. What happened that day? All 7 swing states said Donald Trump. Kamala made her pitch for 107 days, famously. Donald Trump made his pitch, and the country said Donald Trump. Donald Trump said, this is my plan. Number one thing, the border. Again, is anybody confused? Was anybody surprised when Donald Trump came out and said, I'm going to name a border czar Tom Homan. He's going to actually own the title of border czar as opposed to Kamala, who tried to act like she wasn't the border czar. I've never been to the border. We are going to the border. We've been to the border. Have you been to the border? I've never been to, what'd she say? I've never been to Europe. Some stupid shit she said when she was vice president. All right, Tom Homan said, I am the border czar, and yes, we're going to the border. I will personally go to the border, and I'm taking people with me, and I'm kicking them out when we go to the border. He named the border czar, and he said, we're going to do exactly what I told y'all we were going to do. That's him talking to us, citizens of the United States of America. He said, this is what we're going to do. He's doing it. So if you want to be mad, don't be mad at ICE. Again, ICE is just following through. Be mad at your fellow citizens for not voting for the candidate that you wanted. Actually, don't be mad at that either. I mean, this is how elections work. As they say, elections have consequences. Person you voted for didn't get chosen. Well, you're still a citizen of the United States of America. You should get behind the president who's in charge. And you don't like what the president is doing, then what you need to do is call your representative or your congressperson, your senator, and tell them, I don't like what the president is doing, so I want you to support bills that will go against that, or don't support bills that go for it. And if you don't like their response, or you don't get a response, then in the midterm elections, you vote for the representatives that you want. This is the way the democratic election process works, ladies and gentlemen. The way the process works, we choose the president. Okay, maybe you didn't get the president you want. Next thing you can do is you can choose your congresspeople, because the president can't do anything unilaterally. We have a system of checks and balances. That's the reason why we have a three-tiered system, 3 branches of government. We have not 3-tier, but 3 branches. You have the president, the executive, you have the judicial, which is the Supreme Court, which is heavily on the right now, 6-3. And you have the congressional, Congress, also known as the legislative branch. They're the ones who create bills. The bills become laws. But the president can't turn anything into a law without Congress supporting it. And if the president wants to get anything done and Congress doesn't go with it, it can't happen. If Congress wants to get something done, the president wants to do it, it doesn't happen. This is our process. So any of you want to be mad at who got chosen for president and who got chosen for Congress. That's what you need to be mad at, not ICE. ICE is just employees doing their jobs. That's it. All ICE is a bunch of employees doing their job. And they, just like you, have bills, and they got to pay their bills the same way you got to pay your bills. Just because they chose a different job than you doesn't make them better or you better. They're just doing their job. This is from on high. And again, we all had a say in November. Everybody had a say in November. If you didn't use your say, be mad at yourself. If you did use your say, but you didn't get the outcome that you wanted, well, hey, chalk it up. This is part of the game. You're part of a democratic process, meaning majority rules. The majority said Donald Trump. The majority said we have a majority Republican Senate. We have a majority Republican House of Representatives. If you don't like that situation, then in 2028, vote for who you like to vote for. And in 2026, about a year or so and change from now, you vote for the representatives that you want in the legislature. But don't be mad at ICE. All right, so it's not about ICE wearing masks and you're going to dox them. Like, why are you trying to dox ICE? Dox Donald Trump. Now we know who he is. That's who you need to be doxing. You need to dox Donald Trump and dox the legislature. All right, they're the ones who set this up. Not them, not ICE. ICE ain't do nothing. So the ruling restores ICE's roving patrols, allowing enforcement flexibility in areas with high undocumented populations. So they're just roaming around undocumented areas, places where they have come to believe that there's a lot of undocumented people living, and they just roam around and they just snatch people up. This is basically the ICE version of stop and frisk. That's what it is. And proponents say that these restrictions will hinder agents' abilities to act swiftly, the ones that just got lifted, the restrictions that got lifted, that they can't act swiftly against illegal immigration, and this allows them to use broader enforcement tools. So this really comes down to the crux of this, ladies and gentlemen, above the objective, rational argument that I just made. The crux of this is if you're okay with ICE enforcing these immigration rules and laws, or if you're not. That's really what this comes down to. Do you want ICE enforcing these rules, or do you not want them enforcing the rules? And I think what this comes down to is basically you get like 3 groups, if I'm thinking this off the top of my head. So one group, you got the people who might be actually Latin. I'm sure we have some Latinos and Latinas listening to this right now, who I understand if you personally take umbrage to this, even if you don't live in Los Angeles, because damn, they can just profile me and stop me just because I'm Latin. Like, that's kind of crazy. That's not supposed to happen in the United States of America. I get it. I understand your argument if you're on that side. There's also the argument of people like myself I'm not Latin, that needs to be factored in because this wouldn't happen. They wouldn't be stopping me. And at the same time, I'm an absolutist when it comes to rules, standards, and parameters. If the rule says this and somebody breaks the rule, then there should be a penalty for breaking the rule. Because if you have a rule that you do not enforce, you don't have a rule. What you have is a suggestion. If you don't enforce your rules, don't call them rules. Call them what they are, which are suggestions. Unenforced rules are not rules. They are suggestions. Did everybody hear that? The United States of America says this is the rule when it comes to immigration and you don't enforce it, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, that's not a rule. That's a suggestion. And that's why we had what we had in the previous administration. And one of the reasons why Trump and ICE have to do what they're doing right now is because of what happened in the previous administration. Donald Trump is basically saying what Joe Biden just did from 2021 through 2025, early 2025. I'm going to undo that by going to getting all those people that he let in, and we're going to throw them back out. That's what Donald Trump is doing. Now, we talk about political theater here all the time. This ain't theater. This is real. This is political reality. What Donald Trump is doing. And he's doing it out in the open. The difference between him and Barack Obama is Barack Obama did it quietly with a smile on his face. He hid his iron fist underneath a velvet glove, as we say metaphorically. Donald Trump has an iron fist with no glove. There's no velvet glove over top of it. He's showing you the fist. Look at it. Here. Y'all see it? You want to take another picture? Here it is. That's the only difference between Trump and Obama. And Obama did it more than Trump did it, by the way, just for the record. Again. So, and the other side of this argument is people who are saying, well, if you got people who are here, maybe they don't have proper documentation. Maybe they did come over here illegally and they did the wrong way, but they've been living here. They're not committing crimes. Maybe they have a family. They're going to work every day and doing honest work and earning an honest living. They're not doing anything wrong to anybody. And you're just going to round them up just because they speak a certain language, they look a certain way, they're living and working in a certain neighborhood. Even if you find out they don't have proper documentation, what about their kids? What about their wives? What about their families? What about the fact they haven't done anything wrong? They've been living here for 5, 10, 15 years. Now you're just going to throw them out just because? This is much more of a emotional argument than a logical one. Actually, it's not a logical argument at all. It's an emotional argument. It's what we call the appeal to emotion fallacy. And when we get around to talking about the sounds, when we get around to the sounds that I use later on today, you will hear me use the appeal to emotion sound, which is emotional, damn it. This is an emotional argument, but let's be clear, even though it's funny to make fun of emotional arguments, at the same time, emotional arguments do matter. We can't act like they don't matter. They do matter. Logical arguments matter. Rational arguments matter. Objectivity matters. Emotion matters as well. Because these are real people and they may have real families and real loved ones living there. And as Tom Homan said, it's not like they're breaking up the families. What Tom Homan he said this on TV right before the Trump administration began. If you get caught undocumented and you have family here in America who was born in America, so they are actually citizens, but you're not, your family can either come with you when we deport you or they can stay here and y'all get broken up, but we're not breaking up the family. You got an option. Your kids can come with you when we send you back to Mexico, or you can go back to Mexico. Your kids get to stay here. What you want to do? They give you a choice. And the bottom line is we got rules. I told you all. I just said this 2 minutes ago. I'm an absolutist when it comes to rules. If you have a rule and you don't enforce it, it's not a rule. Don't call it a rule. Just change it. Call it something else if you're not going to enforce it. But if you're going to enforce it, if you're going to call it a rule, you have to enforce it. Period. And those of you who are looking at this and saying it looks like a lack of humanity and a lack of empathy on the side of the current Trump administration, I have seen this frame. It's a false frame. It's an inaccurate frame. You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay. However, I see a lot of people falling for it. All of you need to understand what I said 4 minutes ago. The reason why Donald Trump and his administration even need to do this, the reason why there is even a market, so to speak, for rounding up and deporting so many people right now in the United States of America, you can thank the previous administration, which was also chosen by, at least as far as we have been told, a free and fair democratic electoral process, which was Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They said, we're opening the border and we're going to let people in. They said, get on this app and you can be granted legal status within, a day, a week. And a whole bunch of people came in, legal status. This is where they're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs. Y'all remember that? All right? That was because of what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris decided to allow. And they allowed it because we voted for it. We, all of us, we voted for Biden and Harris. We voted for Trump. And whoever comes in 2028, we voted for them. And whoever's in Congress right now, most of us can't name most of them. We did this experiment a couple of weeks ago. We named about 40 people out of 535 members of Congress. We voted for them too. And whatever they decide to do, if you don't like it, well, we voted for them. You get what you vote for. Now, you know how the saying, you get what you pay for, you get what you vote for. If you don't vote, then you get nothing. Now, critics argue that this sanctions unconstitutional racial profiling. We already talked about that. You can stop people based on how they look, how they sound, where they work, and any Latino working a low-wage job is a potential target. Is this true? Yes. There's no equivocation to that. Is that true? Yes. If you're a Latino working a low-wage job in Los Angeles, you gotta walk around with your head on a swivel, because now ICE with masks on their faces coming to grab you up. I guess you better walk around with your documentation just in case. That's what I would tell. If I knew a Latino working a low-wage job in LA, I'd say, walk around with your documentation. Why? Because that's the temperature of the room. I'm a pragmatist on this. Yes, you may not like it, but pragmatism says this is the situation. Okay, you make your adjustments. That's the situation. So dissenters warn that this opens the door for harassment of U.S. citizens and lawful residents. Is this true? Yes, that's also true. That they're going to be, is this going to happen? Are there going to be legal citizens, people who are here lawfully with proper documentation, who get grabbed up by ICE and detained by ICE and questioned by ICE and harassed by ICE, and now they got to sit there and talk to these mofos who it seemed like they're violating the law, but based on what the Supreme Court just said, they're allowed to do this, and now you got to sit there and deal with that just because of where you live and where you work and what you look like. Are you going to have to deal with this? Yes. Which is why I just said, here's the advice I would give to a Latino working in a low-wage job in a low-income area of Los Angeles. Carry your paperwork. Carry your paperwork. All right, put yourself in the best possible position and not have anything go bad for you. Carry your paperwork. Why? Because that's the situation. You can be mad about it tomorrow. All right, today when you go to work, all right, carry your paperwork. Carry it, go into work, carry it, coming home. You can get home and get mad. All right, don't be out in the street getting mad. All right, get mad at home. Why? Because this is the situation. All right, that's called pragmatism. All right, this is, you may not like the situation, but let's not act like the situation is not the situation. That's what it is. So Justice Kavanaugh grounded the decision in existing precedents. So he listed some existing precedent. Those of you who don't know what that means. In legal cases, because the law has been the law for a long time, judges will often cite similar parallel situations that had similar circumstances as basis for the decision that they made today. So something could have happened 10 years ago, and they say, well, based on what happened 10 years ago in a similar case, I'm going to make my judgment today referencing that similar case. And that's what Justice Kavanaugh did. He referenced something called Brigoni-Ponce, which I'm not familiar with. I don't think we need to get into it. And that case, in short, allowed totality of circumstances to inform reasonable suspicion. This is an important distinction. So Justice Kavanaugh says that because of this case that happened in the past, that reasonable suspicion is not about individual character traits, individual characteristics. And this is the crux of this argument. Are you allowed to stop people just because they're black or brown, and they speak Latin and they are in a low income area working a low wage job? Any one of those individually looks like just straight up profiling, and that's bad, right? But what Kavanaugh is referencing is a previous case where it was agreed that totality of circumstances does create reasonable suspicion. So what is totality of circumstances? I'll give you all an example. Any of you who's ever read anything or watched anything on body language? You may have heard people. I remember I was at an event a couple of years ago, and this guy was asking me a question. He asked me the question, and I'm just talking to this person one-on-one in the lobby. He asked me a question, and I'm thinking about my answer to the question. And while I'm starting to answer the question, I scratched my face like this. And he said, well, you're touching your face. That means, and he said something. He was kind of joking, but I know he was kind of serious at the same time. He was taking the fact that I was touching my face to mean that maybe whatever I was about to say was not going to be the truth. And a lot of people tend to read body language in that way. They take one little aspect of body language, or somebody's talking and they're like this, or somebody's like this. That means that they're closed off, or they're mad, or they're upset, or they're not open. That's not necessarily the case. Body language is read in clusters, not in individual pieces. You can't take one piece of somebody's body language and and draw a conclusion. You got to read the whole body language. So somebody can have their arms folded like this, but still be open and laughing and having a jovial conversation. Somebody could be standing like this, but still be closed off and not open and not willing to have a conversation. You can't read it just based off one single thing. You have to read the entirety of the body language. It's like taking one word out of a sentence and judging the sentence based on that word instead of reading the entire sentence and getting the full context. So what Justice Kavanaugh is referring to here is totality of circumstances means reading the entire sentence, not just one word out of the sentence. Does everybody understand? It's like reading the whole book instead of reading one page out of the book. So this allows you to inform reasonable suspicion. And reasonable suspicion is ICE saying, in our past, when we found these people who we're looking for, they tend to fit these criteria. And what the Supreme Court says is that if ICE decides to go looking for people based on the totality of criteria, then we can go looking for people. And the Supreme Court said, that's okay. You can do that. Yes. That's the ruling. So the crux of this comes down to that right there. Does totality of circumstances matter, or are we just going to pick and choose pieces and get mad about the pieces? People on the left, mad about the pieces. People on the right say totality of circumstances. This approach gives officers a broader context-sensitive discretion as to who they go after and who they don't go after. Now, I predict that nobody's going to feel any better or worse about the situation now that I broke it down and explained it. Everybody understands the crux of the situation. People still feel how they feel. People on the left are still going to be mad at this no matter how you explain it. And people on the right are still going to support it no matter how you explain that, how you can explain that people on the left are mad and why they're mad. There's a reason why we have elections. Just to remind you all, those of you who don't participate in the voting process, or those of you who think, well, it doesn't matter, my vote doesn't matter. All right, this is the reason why we have elections, because this is what happens. Maybe you live in a place that always votes one way. Maybe you don't live in a swing state. What can you do? Well, you can make your voice heard. You can put your message out there. I don't live in California. I live in Florida. But I can still say what I want to say. Imagine if I was a paid Democratic influencer. Think I could get a couple people to vote a certain way? Imagine if I was paid Republican influencer. Could I get a couple people to vote a certain way who don't even live where I live? Probably. So it does matter to say what you want to say, even if you feel like your individual vote may not make that much of a difference. Maybe you live in Nebraska and the vote's always going to go one way no matter what you do in your state. Those electoral votes are still going to that side, but you can still get your point across if you can communicate it. Side note. Now, Justice Sotomayor, her dissent calls this a grave misuse of the shadow docket. And again, this is issued without oral arguments. There's no public transparency of this, and there was no rational justification by the Supreme Court. They just put this out. And it jeopardizes, some say, constitutional clarity, and it erodes trust in the Supreme Court. I say bollocks. I disagree. I don't agree with this argument, not Sotomayor's point, but the overall argument that this jeopardizes constitutional clarity. First of all, the Constitution is extremely clear. Constitution is clear. The issue with the Constitution, not if you want to call it an issue, let's just call it an issue, is that the Constitution can be interpreted in more than one way. Again, what's the First Amendment say? The right to free speech, right? Does the right to free speech means you can say just anything, everything to anybody at any time in any place? No, it doesn't mean that, even though it says the right to free speech. So depending on how you want to parse the information, right to free speech, I can say whatever I want. Well, technically, you can say whatever you want. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. All right, so you can say whatever you want, but you can't threaten to beat somebody up and be free of being charged with assault, because you just threatened to do physical damage to somebody. That's assault, legally speaking. So yes, you are free to say things, but you also are not free from consequences. So it's the interpretation of the Constitution that is not even that is unclear, is that this is the reason why we have judges. Again, folks, a lot of judges, if you don't know, any of you who's never participated in an election, your judges get chosen by elections. When you go vote, there are judges that you're voting for, justices that you're voting for. A lot of times I'm looking at that, I don't even know who these people are, but you're picking them. And those judges get to decide how they wish to interpret the laws. It's not the judge's job to just read the law and say, well, the law says this, so that's the answer. But if that was the case, we could just have the ChatGPT could be the judge. We wouldn't need judges. The job of the judge is not to just read what it says on the paper. The job of the judge is to read what it says and decide how he or she wishes to interpret what it says. And that's where all the decisions come down to, is that the interpretation of the law by the judge. That's why judges matter. That's why the Supreme Court matters. Well, who chooses the justice on the Supreme Court? Whoever the sitting president is. Well, who chooses the president? We do. Everybody get this? All right, this is the way it works. This is the reason why elections matter. Even if you don't like the person in charge, this is the reason why they matter. So the Constitution is very clear. All right, there is no jeopardizing of constitutional clarity. That's not true. And it said it erodes trust in the Supreme Court. I say, no, it doesn't. This doesn't erode trust in the Supreme Court. Now, everybody knows what it is. Everybody knows the deal with the Supreme Court. Does everybody know the deal? Everybody knows the deal. The deal with the Supreme Court is that whichever way that court tends to lean, conservative or liberal, that any case that gets sent to that court, it often leans in the direction of whichever way the court is leaning. And the court has 9 justices, which means it's always going to lean one direction or another direction. Right now, the Supreme Court is leaning to the right because there are 6 conservative, quote unquote, conservative leaning justices. That doesn't mean every decision they make is going to favor the conservative necessarily, because they have ruled against Donald Trump. And there are 3 liberal justices. And this is the game. Everybody knows this is the game. Do we not know this? Is this news to anybody? We all know this. So let's not feign ignorance here. So this is really what I'm doing here today. If I had to say I was making an argument for anything, is for all of you to make sure you're registered to vote and you participate in your elections. That's really what this is about. We got Kavanaugh from Donald Trump. We got Ketanji Brown Jackson from Joe Biden. We got Sotomayor from Barack Obama. All right, this is the way it works. We got what's my man's name? Clarence Thomas. Was Clarence Thomas during Bill Clinton, or was that George H. Bush? I think it was George. Was that Bush or was it Clinton? Who did Clarence Thomas come in under? I'm thinking it's Clinton, but that might have been Bush. Somebody let me know. But y'all get the point. Was it Bush? Okay. Because Clarence Thomas is conservative leaning, clearly. I'm thinking, would it be Clinton? So some people saying Clinton, some saying Bush. I'm thinking it was Bush. I think it was late in Bush's term. And then Clinton came in. And who was it that stayed around? I mean, just think about this, folks. We remember the woman, somebody say her name. She stayed around on the court. It was getting close to her. It was looking like, hey, she might be teetering on the grave. Why doesn't she leave the court so that she can be replaced before a new president comes in? She wouldn't leave. She died. Trump got to replace her. Who was that? Exactly. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She stuck around. She didn't leave. So then when she passed away, that was Kavanaugh, right? No, she got replaced by Kavanaugh. RBG was leaning to the left. She got replaced by Kavanaugh, who leans to the right. That's because she didn't leave. But if she had left during Barack Obama's term, which a lot of people were saying maybe she should, then he could have replaced her with, maybe we would have got KBJ, Ketanji Brown Jackson might have come before that, might have come during Obama's term. He got Sotomayor, he could have got one more. So this is what happens. So who is president matters, because things like this that you can't predict. Now they get to replace the justice on the Supreme Court. Now, what if something happens to Sotomayor or Kagan or KBJ next week? Well, who gets to replace them? Donald Trump. You want the Supreme Court to be 7-2? All right, this is the reason why we have elections. All right, this is the reason why you should participate and let people understand. So, critics say that this undermines a fair judicial process and accountability. I say no, it doesn't. And eroding trust in the court, I say no, because people know how the court works. Everybody knows how the court works. If you don't know, I just told you. I just gave you a simple civics lesson on how the Supreme Court works. And everybody trusts that it works the way that it works. Now, you may not like how it works. That's not the same as trusting it. Trusting is, I know what you're going to do. All right. I may not trust is, liking and trust, two different things. Like if you put me in a cage with a lion, I don't like what that lion might do to me, but I trust that the lion was going to do it. All right. Those are two different things. All right. You don't have to like something to trust it. The trust just means you understand that person's MO. So if you don't want that MO to affect you, you probably want to play your space and stay away. That's the way the game works. Supreme Court, the same thing. Again, I've said this over and over and over again to you all. Those of you not familiar, I have a podcast that comes out every day. It's called Work on Your Game. I did a 2-part series on the following topic: stay out of court. Why did I tell you to stay out of court? Because when you go to court, you are allowing your fate to be decided by the judgment of another person. You don't want your fate decided by anybody else's judgment, whether that's a juror or a judge. You want your fate to be decided by your judgment. So your judgment needs to be good enough to keep you out of the legal system and out of paying lawyers and out of having a judge or a jury decide your fate. Instead, you decide your fate by being smart. Stay out of court. You don't want to be in the court system. If you're talking about court, we should be talking about it from the outside looking in like we're doing right here, but not as a participant. Unless you happen to be a judge or a lawyer or you got chosen for jury duty. Those cases, that's okay. But other than that, you don't want to be sitting at one of those benches. You don't want to be that. Now, supporters argue that ICE needs these tools to enforce immigration laws efficiently, especially in areas where illegal entry is concentrated. Okay, so here's another thing where Mr. Governor Newsom and Mayor Bass need to be they need to be held accountable. And the entire political left needs to be held accountable for this. Because of the nonsensical decision that anything Donald Trump says or does, we're going to oppose it. Because of that bad decision by the political left that they have been making for 10 years, they have positioned themselves to oppose anything. So when Donald Trump sent ICE into LA the first time and they were raiding and gathering people up, the political left, what's the word I'm looking for here? They mobilized their machine of influencers to go and tell everybody how terrible this is. That stirred up a bunch of people in LA to go out and protest. And they made a big spectacle out of this. And it got on TV and it got to the media and it got to the news. Look at all these people in LA opposing Trump, oppose Trump, resist Trump, stop ICE, stop Tom Homan, stop anything that has to do with getting people without proper documentation out of the country. Don't let them do it. Don't let them do it. Don't let them do it. Let me ask a question. Put this in the comments. Give me a yes or a no. Did doing that get the increased attention of Donald Trump and his administration? Did that get increased attention from them? The fact that it became a spectacle? Yes or no? Do you think they got Donald Trump to pay a little bit more attention than he would have otherwise been paying attention? And I'm going to connect the dots here. My question is, when they sent ICE in LA the first time, and there was all these news stories about how all these people are trying to fight against ICE and stop them. And Gavin Newsom said, we're going to stop ICE. And Mayor Bass said, we're going to stop ICE. We're not going to allow ICE to do this. And we're not going to allow them to literally do their job. They didn't say that in so many words. But we're going to block ICE from literally doing their damn job just because we want to hold this position. Do you think that might have got the attention of the Trump administration in some way, shape, or form? Answer is absolutely it did. It got their attention. Now, why does that matter? Why does it matter that this got these guys' attention? It matters because you take somebody like Donald Trump. I think most of us can agree this thing about Donald Trump. I told you all this already. I've read excerpts from the book. He has a book called Think Big and Kick Ass. One of the chapters in that book is Always Get Revenge. That's literally the title of one of the chapters in his own book, Always Get Revenge. Donald Trump is kind of like, I'm drawing a parallel, Donald Trump's kind of like Michael Jordan in a way, or Tiger Woods even, is that if he feels like you're trying to slight him, especially if you're doing it publicly, he's going to get you back one way or another. Like, can we agree Donald Trump's that kind of guy? Give me a yes or no. Is Donald Trump the kind of guy that if he feels like you try to get one over on him, he's going to get payback? Give me a yes or a no. Do you agree? He's that type of guy. Yeah, you don't have to like him to agree. Do we agree that this is who he is? Okay. We can also agree that Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom have tried very hard to make a public spectacle of going against Donald Trump. So let's put two and two together, folks. Let's put two and two together. What the hell do you think he's going to do? And here's the problem that Gavin Newsom has. Donald Trump has more power than Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom has say over one state. Donald Trump has say over 50. This is the problem that the political left has. Oh, Gavin Newsom standing up to Donald Trump from California? Or what about the other 50 states? Or what about the federal power that Donald Trump has that Gavin Newsom can't even touch? That's why this is a bad idea. To position yourself as I'm going against Donald Trump. So that's going to cause him to pay more attention to you, find something that he can use against you, and then use it. Y'all think this is a coincidence? That this is happening? No, this is not happening in Utah. It's not happening in Texas. Aren't there? Wait a minute. The border, the southern border of the United States of America, where do most of the people go into? They're either going into California or going into Texas. You notice that Donald Trump's not doing any of this in Texas? Somebody explain that to me. Why is this not happening in Texas? The border in Texas is way bigger than the border in California. Why is he not doing this in Texas? There's a simple answer why he's not doing it in Texas. Because the governor of Texas, Governor Abbott, is a Republican. He's on the right, and he tends to be aligned with Donald Trump. He tends to be on the same side as Donald Trump. He hasn't, and if he disagrees with Trump on something, he disagrees privately, not publicly. Gavin Newsom's public defiance and Karen Bass's public defiance of Donald Trump, I guarantee you, has something to do with what's happening in California right now. Because they could easily be doing this in Texas, and it'd probably be a much bigger operation. Would you agree? It'd probably be a bigger operation if he did this in Texas than what they're doing in California. Yet he's doing it in California. Why? Because you asked for attention. And as the saying goes, when you call for attention, you can't hang up. Gavin Newsom called for attention. All right, now you got it. It is a fight that Gavin Newsom can't win. Yes, you could post tweets, but now we're talking about people's real lives being disturbed. All right, posting on social media is not the same as what's happening in somebody's real life. And I believe this is a miscalculation by the political left, not just Gavin Newsom, the entire political left machine. This is a miscalculation for them, is that they're still playing Donald Trump's game. They're allegedly all better than him, and they're beating him, and they're standing up to him, and they're defeating him, and they're going to issue him losses and all of these things. Yet, every single thing every one of them does is all based on getting a response out of him. So make that make sense to me. That doesn't make sense to me. If y'all can understand it, please help me understand it. Their whole frame is about beating Donald Trump and how they're beating him and XYZ, yet he won 2 electoral outcomes. And every single thing the leaders of the political left are doing, from Bernie Sanders to AOC to Kamala Harris to, well, Joe Biden when he was around, and now Gavin Newsom, is all about responding to Donald Trump. Notice everything they say is about Donald Trump. When was the last time Gavin Newsom said anything that didn't have something to do with Donald Trump? Let's find out. Let's do our research. Because am I following Gavin Newsom? I think I am. Yes, I'm following Gavin Newsom on X. He has 2.6 million followers. There he is. All right. So everything, my theory, my hypothesis, is everything Gavin Newsom says is somehow related to Donald Trump. And when I say Donald Trump, I mean the Trump administration. So here's Gavin Newsom talking about something that Stephen Miller said on Fox. All right. Stephen Miller is connected to the Trump administration. Then it's Gavin Newsom saying Mike Littleman Johnson knows he's going to lose his speakership in 2026. He's so scared he just dropped $5 million to try to stop us. I don't know who us is. So now he's talking about Mike Johnson. So he's talking about the politicians on the right. Okay, kind of, sort of. Then just going to leave this one here is a headline: Trump faces right-wing attacks over Intel proposal. Like, that's about Donald Trump. Then it's him trashing Mike Johnson. I already said that. Then it's a clip Gavin Newsom posted of Donald Trump and allegedly somebody saying that he was connected to Epstein. So that's another post about Trump. Then there's another one. Gavin Newsom said he posted a CBS headline: Conservatives and economists warn Trump administration against buying stakes in U.S. companies beyond Intel. So there's another one about Donald Trump. Then there's another one where he is going against J.D. Vance. He screenshotted something J.D. Vance said. Okay, there it is again. Then there's another one. Who is leading the opposition to Prop 50, an anti-abortion, anti-LGBTQ MAGA millionaire. So there he is going against MAGA again. This guy named Charles Munger Jr. Then there's another one. How far y'all want me to go here? The war on Christmas continues. Now, actually, this is one where it looks like he's not talking about Donald Trump. So how many posts was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So out of 10 posts by Gavin Newsom, his last 10 posts, 1 of the 10 was not about Donald Trump. And this is your leader for 2028. Mind you, Donald Trump's not running in 2028. Now, I'm just leaving that there for those of you who are political left supporters to figure out amongst yourselves. This is your leader. His last 10 posts, 9 of them are about Donald Trump. Who's he running against in 2028? Not Donald Trump. But okay, anyway. So the Trump administration sees that this ruling by the Supreme Court, this is a critical component of its national security and immigration control strategy. So this is just languaging, how they want to play the game. You don't like it? This is the reason why we have elections. I'll say again. Now, opponents warn that this is going to sow fear, is going to deteriorate community-police relationships, is going to suppress civil liberties in immigrant communities. Let's talk about these 3 things. This is all a form of emotional damage. So these are all emotional trigger words They're going to sow fear. So they think it's going to sow fear in the community that ICE is going to be running around and grabbing up people who might have improper documentation. I say, yeah, you're right. It is going to sow fear. If I'm living somewhere without proper documentation, and I know the authorities who are checking for people for proper documentation are running around in the area in which I live, work, and play, yeah, I'm going to be afraid because I'm thinking they're going to catch me. Yes. Does this sow fear? Yes, it does. So I would actually agree with it, but not for the same reason. This saying it sows fear as if there's some terrible thing. Please keep liking and live, everybody over there on TikTok. I know some of your fingers might have got tired, but please keep liking and live. We're at 139K. This is a 200K day, folks. Let's get the likes up, please.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
Get the likes up, TikTok. Please get the likes up. So they say it will deteriorate community-police relationships. No, it will not, because the good thing about ICE is that you can tell the difference between ICE and the cops. That's the good thing about ICE. People, all the nasty things people have said about ICE is that it's pretty clear when it's a cop and it's pretty clear when it's ICE. ICE, at least the cops wear uniforms. ICE doesn't really wear a uniform, at least not the same one the police do. I can tell the difference between an ICE agent and a cop. All right, can most of you, from what I've seen on TV at least, I can tell the difference. So this has nothing to do with community police relationships because, again, I see a cop. The cops are right there. ICE is over there. Two different people, two different entities. I'm not confused at all. And they say it will suppress civil liberties in immigrant communities. Well, it depends on what you mean by civil liberties. This is one of those words that are open to and phrases that are open to multiple interpretations. So you can call civil liberties a lot of different things. One civil liberty would be me as a citizen saying, I don't want people who don't have proper documentation living in my neighborhood. Come get them, ICE, and get them the hell out of my neighborhood. Why? Because we have laws here. Not because I'm mad at them, not because they did anything wrong, not because they kicked my dog, but because my civil liberty is I want to live in a community of other American citizens. And if they don't have documentation, they don't deserve to be here. And if I want to tell them, I want to tell ICE to come get them and get them out of here, that is a civil liberty of mine. I got a right to enforce that civil liberty and call the authorities. I got a right to that. I'm not saying I would do it, but do I have a right to it? Yes, I do. Is that a civil liberty? Yes, it is. They're saying the civil liberty is, well, you can't come rounding people up based on their race. Well, according to the Supreme Court, yes, you can. This is where we're at. I'm explaining that to help you all understand that when people throw these terms out, they often throw out terms that can be interpreted in more than one way, but they present it as if there's only one interpretation of the term. This is where a lot of logical fallacies come from. And today, when we get into the comments, I'm pretty sure we're going to get a whole bunch of
strawberry cheesecake
for this very reason, what I just explained. People taking the term and interpreting it differently than the way that I use it in context, and then arguing using a different context and different interpretation, and then presenting it as if they're making a point when they're actually not. Now, if you tell me you just use a different interpretation of a term, that's not a logical fallacy. But if you try to flip the interpretation in between my comment and your comment, that's the logical fallacy. Good thing is I'm just good at catching when people do that nonsense. Now, cities like, let's say Houston, for example, they have a large Latino population, and they fear that if this works, quote unquote, in LA, they're going to do the same thing in other cities. So this will be a blow to trust and fairness. I say, what trust? Trust in what? What are we talking about? Again, we can interpret that term in a lot of different ways. And fairness, what the hell does that even mean? My understanding of the word fair, not my understanding, my interpretation of the word fair. And I told you I'm an absolutist on several things. Here's another thing I'm absolute on. Fair is determined by who has the power. Fair is not some objective black and white thing. There's no such thing. Fair is determined by who has the power. So if you have a 5-year-old child and your 5-year-old says, I want to eat ice cream, and you say, well, if you eat dinner first, then you can eat ice cream. But if you don't eat your dinner, you can't have ice cream. And your 5-year-old says, well, that's not fair. Does it matter that your 5-year-old said that's not fair? Well, technically it matters that they said it, but does that mean they're going to get the ice cream before dinner? No. Why is this? It's because your 5-year-old has the power. You have the power. So if you think something's not fair, but you don't have the power to enforce the fairness in the way that you see it, then it doesn't really matter that you don't think that is fair. This is the way that power works. My favorite book of all time is Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. And power is about pragmatism. Niccolo Machiavelli's book, The Prince, talks about this as well. These are all forms of dark psychology. And dark psychology is about pragmatism. What pragmatism means, for those of you who maybe heard the term but don't know what it means, pragmatism means adjusting to the situation as it is, even if you think the situation is fucked up. That's what pragmatism means. Now, people on the other side, people who want to live in this utopian world, they say the situation is messed up, so we should change the situation so it's not messed up anymore, and then we'll do stuff. Well, the problem is you can't always change the situation from messed up to perfect. And a lot of people talk about things as if there's a way to make the situation perfect rather than dealing with the situation as it is. Bernie Sanders, AOC, let's tax the rich, let's tax the billionaires, and that'll solve all the problems. Okay, that sounds good, but Bernie, you've been saying that for 35 years. Why haven't you done it yet? Because it's not practical. You can't do it. It's not as easy as it sounds when he's walking around giving speeches and writing books about it. You know, Bernie Sanders, right? He wrote a book about his tour of fighting the oligarchy. Of course he did. Of course he did. He giving the book away for free? I doubt it. Different conversation for a different day. But pragmatism is about understanding the situation as it is and adjusting to what is rather than what you want things to be. The problem for another issue that the political left has, and it's gotten worse over the last 15 years, significantly worse, is this move from pragmatism to this utopianism or idealism. Oh, we got to make it perfect. Oh, we got to make the rich, quote unquote, pay their fair share. Oh, the oligarchs are destroying everything. Elon Musk got another $100 billion. It's not right for him to have $100 billion where some people are struggling to pay rent. What's the connection between the two of them? There is no connection between the two of them. You not being able to pay your rent has nothing to do with how much money Elon Musk has.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
See, that's idealism. Oh, since everything's not perfect, then we gotta find somebody to blame. No, we gotta fix the situation as it is because there's no way we'll ever have a perfect situation because we got a bunch of imperfect human beings running things, including those on the right, including those on the left. You can't get perfection from imperfection. You cannot create a perfect outcome with a bunch of imperfect beings, also known as human beings, running the show. It's impossible. Now, how many politicians have you heard say that? See, this is the reason why I'm not in politics. Now, this ruling triggered widespread political mobilization. California officials are alleging to continue legal challenges in the Ninth Circuit, which is where this happens, emphasizing local pushback and constitutional resistance. So they're going to keep trying to fight. Here's the problem with continuing trying to fight. All right, you already got a ruling from the Supreme Court, so they can't take this to court anymore. All right, you got Tom Homan and his team. All right, you're not going to really stop them. The problem is now you're getting yourself into a fight that you can't win. So basically, the political left is trying to make themselves into martyrs. We're just victims of the circumstance, and we just want to go out as victims rather than actually trying to do something that try to stand on our own too. We're just going to position ourselves as victims so that the other side looks bad just because they're beating us. I don't like this idea, but I don't think I can talk the left out of it. I think they are pretty much entrenched in this position. So this is going to be a coordinated defense of civil rights at state and municipal levels. So they're going to keep trying to take this to court at different levels. The problem is the Supreme Court is the biggest court in the country, and they already made a decision. This is a problem. This is a problem that the left has, especially in the state of California. But one more point, and then we'll get to the comments. Until the lower courts or the full Supreme Court issue a final ruling, because technically this is not the final ruling. So this could become a bigger argument. But right now, ICE can continue as is. So right now, ICE is rounding some people up at the Home Depot. In California, it's only 6:30 in the morning. So they're waiting. ICE is waiting around the corner at Home Depot for the day workers to start showing up so they can start grabbing y'all. All right, communities remain exposed to unchecked enforcement tactics with no clear legal remedies. I don't like this language. This is loaded language, and y'all got to watch for this because the people use this all the time for different reasons and different arguments. They say communities are exposed. First of all, that's a loaded term, exposed. First of all, the community is just a community. All right, cops can go anywhere they want to go. Anywhere a civilian can go, a cop can go. So you're not exposed. Exposed is a loaded term that makes it seem like you're being put in a line of danger. That's not true. They say exposed to unchecked enforcement tactics. That's not true. It has been checked. It just came from the damn Supreme Court. How are you going to call enforcement unchecked when you just came from the Supreme Court? You got a ruling from the highest court in the country. You can't call it unchecked. It's been very much checked. And the Supreme Court said, clear. That's what it is. And they say no clear legal remedies. Well, not everything. Well, it depends on what they mean by legal remedy. By legal remedy, what they're saying is what's the word I'm looking for here? A pushback, for lack of a better term, for if you get rounded up by ICE, here's what you can do legally to block ICE from doing what they're supposed to do. Well, if you don't have proper documentation, ICE catches you. Well, what they're supposed to do is kick you out. What people on the political left are trying to do is come up with every possible addition of legal red tape to stop these people from being kicked out. Why would you do this? Just on a bottom line, rational argument point. Why are people on the political left trying to block undocumented people from being shipped out of the country, which they're supposed to be shipped out based on the laws that we have on the books. Why are they doing this? They're doing this because they want to show that they are standing up against Donald Trump, and Donald Trump's hallmark position, his banner thing was, I'm going to get undocumented immigrants out of the country. So they're going to stand up against the main thing Donald Trump said just because Donald Trump said it. If Donald Trump said the main thing I want to do is give everybody fresh, breathable oxygen, people on the political left will strangle themselves to death just to show that they're standing up against Donald Trump. This is a foolish position. They walk around with plastic bags over their heads and tie the bag up around their necks just so they can asphyxiate, just so they can prove that they're standing up against Donald Trump. All right, this is a bad idea, but they're still doing it. All right, this is the problem. Please keep getting the likes up, everybody. This stay applies nationwide, so protections are suspended across Southern California immediately. And again, why are they even calling this protection? What are you protected from? You're protected. You're in the country without proper documentation, and you're protected, quote unquote, protected from authorities catching you and shipping you out of the country. What do you mean protected? Us as civilians should be protected from someone without proper documentation being in our neighborhoods because you're not supposed to be here. Again, you go to another country without proper documentation, the people who live there who have proper documentation, they deserve to be protected from illegal aliens running around the country like me without proper documentation, running around when I'm not where I'm not supposed to be. So it depends on the way you decide to frame this. So all that being said, everybody, I went 90 minutes here on the content. We're going to get into the comments next. I need to take a restroom break because this was 90 minutes unstopped. Let me take a quick restroom break. Y'all talk amongst yourselves. I'll be back in 90 seconds. We're going to get to the comments, and we're going to get to some of our favorite sounds like strawberry cheesecake. I'm back. Let's get to it. My favorite part of the live stream, getting into the comment section. And Willer said, I can't wait for the comments. Let me read a couple off Instagram real quick. Then we'll get over to TikTok where the majority of the comments are at. Soul Art said, I guess that's one thing I like about Trump. He doesn't hide his fists. Well, yes, everybody can agree to that. Well, maybe not the liking part, but he doesn't hide it. Yes, RBG. And Soul Art said, I heard a gay couple she married committed a crime against kids, SMH. I didn't know about that. And Funky Deneva discussed one of your very old videos on his show last night. Yeah, I remember those videos and people taking that stuff. I think I know what you're talking about. People took a clip out of that video out of context. That would happen like 5 years ago. People still doing it. I get it. I understand. All right, so let's get it to the comments over on TikTok. I'm going from the oldest that I can see to the newest, so I can't see every comment. I can only see as far up as I'm allowed to scroll here. And y'all understand the sounds once I start using them. So Tracy, thank you for sharing the live. Brenda says, so much for blind justice. I don't know about that. I think this is still blind justice. The judges decided how the justice shall be meted out and how it's going to be interpreted. So I don't think that they did anything wrong to blind justice. Irma V, thank you for the palm breeze. Sue Smith says SCOTUS is corrupt. How so? Based on what? The Lit CEO, thank you for the follow. Karina, thank you for the goat. Out Loud said it's more like 5-4 conservative. Okay. All right. I'll take that. So we're trying to figure out who brought in Clarence Thomas. Let's see if we can find out. I'm thinking it had to have been Bush because Clarence Thomas is clearly a conservative, but who knows? Who was the president when Clarence Thomas was brought into the Supreme Court? Crazy Dad 787 said, "You're smart, dude. I like you get to the fact and you make sense. You're not picking or choosing sides." Well, thank you. I'm on the side of what logically makes sense and what's objectively. I try to be objectively accurate as best I can be. No human can be completely objective, but I try to be as objective as I can be. Nana Cat said, "We got the Biden appointee that doesn't know what a woman is." Well, Ketanji Brown Jackson knows what a woman is. It's just she had to pretend to not know at that time because she knew what side she was on. She knew she knew what team she was on. So Clarence Thomas was nominated to the U.S. Supreme Court by President George Herbert Walker Bush in 1991. Bush announced the nomination on July 1st to replace Thurgood Marshall, who had retired. So that was 1991, and it was the 92 election that brought in Clinton. So Bush was on his next to last year in his only term when he brought in Clarence Thomas. After a contentious confirmation process, including the Anita Hill hearings, Thomas got confirmed in October. So he got nominated in July and he was confirmed in October. So what was that? About 4 months. And it was a narrow vote, 52-48. And he has been Associate Justice ever since, the longest serving current member of the court. So now we got clarity on Clarence Thomas. 1991 was when Clarence Thomas came in, right before Clinton. Live Free said, "The Supreme Court are the kings of the United States." I get what you're saying. KS Priest said, "Google said came in Bush 91. Okay, so KS Priest, you got it right. Yes, you figured it out. Hey, thank you for the share. Brandon, thank you for the follow. Live Free said, "No one should have a lifetime appointment." Well, the problem if we were to get rid of lifetime appointments is how do you kick out the people who are there already? Or maybe what you do is you put term limits on the next people, like the next person who comes in, you give them a term limit, but then somebody who's already on the court, they might be around longer than the person with the term limit. So how do you figure that out? How do you make that make sense? If you term limit the new people, or you're going to start term limiting people who are already on the court, you would kick a bunch of people off the court right now. How do you figure that out? I generally agree. I don't like the fact that any politician can stay in for as long as they do. So I like that the president is only 2 terms max. I don't like that in Congress, those people could stay in there their entire damn lives. Supreme Court, I'm generally indifferent to, but if you're going to do it to the president and you're going to do it to the legislature, you might as well do it to the court. So I get it. Miss I said, "I thought you knew everything. You didn't know about who appointed." Well, are you talking about Clarence Thomas? I mean, what you called him, Uncle Ruckus?
Is that like a personal attack or something?
It's the ad hominem of the day, Miss Eyes. And you thought I knew everything? No, I don't know everything, but I know a lot of important things. And anything I don't know, I can find it out pretty quickly. D. Dran said, "You're wrong." Wrong about what? And then Marie right after that said, "Hell yes." So am I right or am I wrong? We're at 183,000 likes, folks. Let's get to 200K, folks, in the next 25 minutes. Annie AFF said, "Legals need to be mad at their people for not doing the right thing, not Trump." Well, Annie, it depends on what you mean by the right thing. Because if I'm in Mexico, for example, I want to come to America, but I can't get proper documentation, I might take a risk just to come over here and hope I get away with it because I really want to be in America. That doesn't necessarily mean I did the wrong thing. I did the right thing maybe from my personal situation, maybe not the right thing based on the law, but I'm trying to take care of myself. So again, that's the pragmatist side of me, that somebody might do something that technically is against the rules or the law, but they're trying to help themselves at the same time. Because let's say I come over here without proper documentation, live in America for 10 years, make more money in America than I would have made back home, and I'm able to send that money back home. I help my family out tremendously for that 10 years. Then I get caught in year 11 and get sent back. But I helped my family out in that 10 years better than I would have helped them out had I stayed in Mexico, even though technically I did the wrong thing. So I can understand that. I can understand the position of somebody doing something that is technically wrong to better their own situation. Why? Because, again, human beings are driven by self-interest. So I understand. Rasheem Tony said Republicans refused to allow Obama a hearing to replace the SC justice when he was in. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Who was he trying to replace, though? Which justice was that? Jim said, "I don't trust the court system at all." Well, nobody should trust the court system. You want to stay out of the court system. That's the very point that I made. Deidre said Barack had opportunities to replace 2 justices. Okay. So I'm thinking that's the Kavanaugh one that came in after, right? Brenda Cummins said that's the problem. Justice should not be a game. Well, again, it goes back to are we looking at things on a practical level or are we looking at things on a utopian level? I understand what you're saying, Brenda. Justice should be completely blind to the point that ChatGPT can decide a court case. But that's not the situation that we have. Out Loud said, trust is understanding that the court will operate within its powers and abide by its rules. Well, Out Loud, the problem with your framing here is that the rules are open to interpretation because the rules are written such so that they can be interpreted. That's the very point. The very point of the law being written the way that it is that it is open to interpretation, not black and white, and that there is no possible way to look at this differently. It depends on the situation. Deidre said the Senate would not confirm the second justice. Who was the second justice? Tony Roughhands. Thank you for the share. Miss I said this guy went to the Clarence Thomas School of Life. So sad. What does that even mean?
Is that like a personal attack or something?
You haven't explained what exactly you're disagreeing with. You're disagreeing, but you're not saying what the disagreement is. Sue Smith said Donald J. Trump is a felon. Well, yes, he is. But how'd they get that felony?
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
Carlos said, can we get some goats to reach the goal, please? Yes, thank you. We're 190,000, folks. We're almost there. Hollywood said, LOL, no kings, and they think they are kings. Who are you talking about? Who? S. Wilson 32 said, yes, because he's an egotistical child. You talking about Trump?
Is that like a personal attack or something?
Amor Whittington, thank you for the follow. So when that sound I just played.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
That's the ad hominem award when somebody makes an attack of a person rather than attacking a point. That's called the ad hominem. I think we're going to hear a lot of that today. You already have. Miss Lamar Crump said probably, and it should have got his attention. Well, it definitely got his attention. Because, again, he could have did this in Texas. Crazy Dad said, absolutely, I agree, because he's a narcissist and he doesn't like to be disrespected. Well, I think on some level, every human being is a narcissist. But I never heard a person admit to being a narcissist, but I always hear people accusing somebody else of being a narcissist. So how is everybody else a narcissist, but nobody is actually a narcissist? So it's just funny that everybody says that about somebody else, but nobody says it about themselves.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
Sue Smith said, he's my felon PDF president and yours too.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
Okay, so anytime Trump's name comes up, I might as well just get that sound queued up because it triggers a lot of people to say stuff. Tracy Jean, thank you for the share. Murphy the Mutt said the sound machine is going to burn up today. I haven't even burnt it up yet. I haven't even got to use the straw man yet. I'm waiting for the straw man. We haven't gotten one yet. Karina said, RIP to your soundboard. We didn't get to it yet. Mazzano said, sugarcoating project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation. Okay, here we go.
Strawberry cheesecake.
So that sound is for the straw man. The straw man is a most common logical fallacy. People that you hear in disagreements when people reframe your argument to something that you didn't say, and then they represent it in terms of using sarcasm, ridicule, a question, or they present it as a statement, as if they're throwing your words back at you. Lozano just did it here. He said, I'm sugarcoating Project 2025. First of all, I did a whole live on Project 2025 about 3 weeks before last year's election. And I went through Project 2025 and actually pointed out the major points of it. And there was nothing crazy inside of Project 2025. If there was, tell me what it was. Most people who are bashing or they try to make a boogeyman out of Project 2025 don't even know what was in it. I went through Project 2025. And the Heritage Foundation is nothing but a think tank. And there are hundreds of think tanks. They're at the same number on the left as there are on the right. Heritage Foundation just got a lot of attention because they were suggesting things to Donald Trump, and people were so emotionally triggered about Donald Trump that all of a sudden political think tanks became a news item when political think tanks have existed for the last 50 years. So Lozano, congratulations on straw man of the day.
Strawberry cheesecake.
Sue Smith said, no, I didn't vote for an SAer. Oh, yes, you did. Are you an American citizen? You voted for him. We have a democratic voting process. So even if you picked Kamala, you voted for Trump because we, the entire country, chose Donald Trump through the democratic, free and fair electoral process. So actually you did.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
Tammy said, remember Trump was a Democrat. Yeah, he was. Hannah said, because Texas stands on business. Well, Hannah, that's a good rationalization, but the real reason is because Abbott is on the same side as Donald Trump. That's the reason why he doesn't do it. Karina said, Texas governor is compliant. Yes, there you go. You just said Texas is doing it on their own. Okay, so a bunch of you said the same thing. Texas is doing what Trump has to force California to do, or do it himself. Texas is doing it on their own, which they should do. Every state should do it because, again, we have laws. Sergio said because he's not doing his job and only trying to attack his political enemies. I disagree with that. Part of the job when you're in politics is to attack your political enemies.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
I mean, if you're going to use that frame, Sergio Rivas, what is Gavin Newsom doing right now? What part of Gavin Newsom's job is talking about Donald Trump? Last I checked, he was the governor of the state of California. Why is he talking about Donald Trump, who is the president of the United States? What is Gavin Newsom doing for the state of California?
Oh, I like your funny.
So I was just reading Gavin Newsom's Twitter feed, and his last 10 posts, I just told you all, one about the Trump administration. Mind you, Gavin Newsom is the governor of California, right? Let's not forget about that. His second one is about Mike Johnson. His third one is about Trump. Fourth one is about Mike Johnson. Fifth one is about Trump. Sixth one is about Trump. Seventh one is about J.D. Vance. Eighth one is about Charles Munger, who's a MAGA guy, and he has used Trump's name in here 3 times. Ninth one is about the war on Christmas. The 10th one is about Donald Trump saying we saved Los Angeles, and Newsom showing a picture of the troops sleeping on the floor. So you could kind of say that's about California. The 11th one is about health insurance and how Donald Trump is the reason that it's going up. The 12th one is about Olivia Giuliana speaking at FAFO 50. This is allegedly an event and a live stream happening on September 10th, tomorrow. FAFO 50. And this woman, Olivia Giuliana, she's going to be the one speaking. Here's Miss Olivia Giuliana. Those of you don't remember her. She is a paid Democratic influencer. I've seen her a lot on X. This woman was allegedly the person in charge of bringing men back to the Democratic Party. Let me take a sip of water while y'all consume what I just told you. This is the woman who was in charge of bringing men back to the Democratic Party. And I talked about this about 2 months ago. Why that was a bad idea to send this woman to go do that. And you go look at her feed and you can come up with more reasons besides what I just told you and what I just showed you. But she's allegedly speaking at this event. So these sharp-tongued, verbally aggressive females, and she is also, all due respect to Miss Olivia, not physically attractive. She's not bringing men back to the Democratic Party. Long story short, I gave more context on it months ago. Y'all can go find that. Then he reposted something Harry Sisson said about FAFO 50, this event that all the political left's paid influencers are going to be speaking there. So Olivia Giuliana is speaking. Harry Sisson is speaking. Pete Buttigieg is speaking. Jamie Raskin is speaking. And those are all the people that Gavin Newsom retweeted. Then he is jabbing at Donald Trump again about the price of beef going up. Then it's the groceries that Trump said were going to go down, how they went up. Then finally, he talks about California politics. So how many posts did I just read of Gavin Newsom's? 20? Of his last 20 posts, one of them is about California. So you want to talk about somebody not doing their job, you should talk about Gavin Newsom. Sergio.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
Lozano said because of blue state. Well, that sounds good, but there's a whole lot of blue states. Why isn't he doing it in any other state? Why California? Phil Maxstar said California is a sanctuary city. I think you mean Los Angeles. And conveniently collected a large population of illegal aliens. Well, I don't think it was convenient. I mean, they are on the border. There is a southern border to California. Lozano said he won't send ICE to red states. Well, I don't think he needs to, Lozano, because the red states are getting rid of them anyway. So he doesn't need to send ICE to the red states.
Emotional, damn it.
Actually, that's not an emotion. That's more of it's an implied straw man is what you just did there.
Strawberry cheesecake.
B. Sid Head, I can't read your name, said, nope, you are way off. On what? If you disagree with something that I say what the disagreement is instead of just saying that you're stating a disagreement but not saying what it is. Wifey Tip said, Texas is taking care of business, California is not. Okay, well, it depends on what business we're talking. Ben Rose said, truth, no one can help you learn because your ego. What are you referring to? Sue said, DJT goes against everybody and everything. Sue, that's a straw man.
Strawberry cheesecake.
You can't say a man goes against everybody and everything when half the country voted for him just, 9 months ago? 11 months ago? And that's a clear non sequitur.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
Hollywood, thanks for the follow. Angelica said, I don't understand how they said he can run in 2028. This is second term, so he can't run again. Well, he has thrown it out there kind of as a tongue-in-cheek thing, like, hey, maybe I should just run again. Because he has such a fervent fan base that people are like, he should just stay president forever. And he's not going to do that. But people are throwing it out there because they're trying to scare. It's a scare tactic. Oh, Donald Trump's just going to try to dominate and take over the government and never allow democracy again and destroy the Constitution. And then they point to January 6, 2021 as proof of this. And it's all just part of a campaign to get people excited against Donald Trump because the Democrats and the political left tend to believe that this is going to get people excited to support Democrat. But clearly that does not work anymore. But they seem to not have gotten the memo. Hollywood said trying to mirror Trump isn't going to work for Newsom. Well, he is trying to mirror Trump, even though he calls it standing up to Trump. What he's doing is he's trying to use the Trump playbook. The problem is Gavin Newsom is a career politician. So you can't use the Trump playbook because he doesn't have the underlying framework for the Trump playbook. Sue Smith said, what kind of leader do we have now? An elected one that we chose in the election. Angelica, thank you for the share. I lost my spot here. Miss Lamar said Roosevelt ran 3 times. Well, so did Trump. It depends on, did he win? And did he run? He ran after he had already done 2 terms or what? And then what happened? Rod, thank you for the follow. TJ SB, good morning. T. Evans, thanks for the follow. Traditional said, what if the new president opened up the floodgates again? You mean the next president? It might happen. Now, what if Kamala Harris wins in 2028? What do you think is going to happen? Sue Smith said, Nana, I don't know who she's talking to. What has your leader accomplished so far? How has your life improved? This is known as a red herring, also a Socratic trap.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
Maybe every other time Donald Trump's name comes up in my life, somebody asks a question like this. How is your life better because Donald Trump is the president? And first of all, that's a red herring because you're trying to change the subject by trying to move the goalpost to something that you could possibly win on when your previous point failed tremendously. And Sue Smith, the whole point is, it's not about your life necessarily improving because of who the president is, because the president's job is not to improve your life. The job of the government itself, and the president is the person in charge at this time, is to defend your God-given rights, and secondly, keep the government out of your business, not necessarily to make your life better. Your life should improve because you are around, not because the president is around. So if your life doesn't get better under, let's say, Barack Obama, then your life also shouldn't get worse under, let's say, Donald Trump. If your life gets better or worse under either president, that's not because of the president, that's because of you. Excuse me 1 second, let me blow my nose. So this false frame that a lot of people have is, oh, well, nobody ever asked that question under Barack Obama. Nobody ever said, how's your life improved under Barack Obama? I never heard anybody ask that. But everybody says it about Donald Trump as if Donald Trump's existence is supposed to make your life better. And I think most people understand that that's not the case. But people try to use this as a red herring or a Socratic trap. Socratic trap is asking somebody a question that you think they can't come up with a good answer to. So it makes you look good and makes them look bad. And again, these are all forms of fallacies. Not always technical fallacies, but
you're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
Tammy said the protesters in LA can't tell the difference or in Portland. Well, yeah, that's not really why they're there. They're there just to make a scene. Rosano said he definitely loves Trump. Are you talking about me?
Strawberry cheesecake. Emotional, damn it.
So that emotional damage one is the appeal to emotion. When someone's trying to make an emotional argument or their emotions are showing through a fallacious argument, which is what Lozano just did there. Lozano, I think you're in the lead right now of logical fallacies. Sun God said, that's an ignorant analogy. Which analogy did I use as ignorant? Mr. Ned, thanks for the follow. Empress K said, you must have slept through history classes. My lord, you are so lost This is so sad.
Emotional, damn it.
Strawberry cheesecake.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay?
Oh, baby, a triple. Oh, yeah. Oh, baby, a triple. Oh, yeah.
So, Empress K, you get the Russell Westbrook Award for the first. This is actually not the first. It's the first one I've acknowledged. The first triple double of the day. First thing she said is you must have slept through your history classes. First of all, Empress K. History class? Is that really the best you can come up with? You had all this time to come up with a comment, and that's what you came up with? History class is history taught by outdated textbooks, written by who? We don't know. And taught by who? People who are not historians, school teachers who have educational degrees but have no qualifications in the subject of history. And what they say is what allegedly is your frame for what is actually historically accurate. Is that really what you came up with?
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay?
Then you said, my Lord, you are so lost. This is so sad.
Emotional, damn it.
I want all of the rest of you who are watching, notice that when someone disagrees with me, notice that they use these frames of, oh my God, I can't believe it. They use these frames of incredulity. Like, I can't believe it. You're so wrong. You're so off. But they don't actually say what I got wrong. These are forms of, they do this to get your attention and they get you to notice them. And I'm pointing them out and I can make fun of them with the logical fallacy sounds. But notice that they don't actually make an argument. So you all should notice that because people do this offline all the time. Andrew Smith said, Trump and beyond, cleaning up our country. Keith, thank you for the share. Andre said, fair, in my opinion, means treat people without favoritism. I get what you're saying, but we're talking about fair by definition, not your opinion. And fair, but in the way that it is pragmatically used, is fair is decided by who has the power. That's how it happens. We're at 200,000 likes, folks. That's excellent. Thank you. Lala said, why don't you understand? This sounds like a straw man. Why don't you understand that the rich are looking out for themselves only? Oh, this is easy.
Strawberry cheesecake.
Lala, let me ask you a question. Who are you looking? Are you part of the rich? So are you talking about yourself or are you talking about other people when you say the rich? And secondly, show me the person who's not looking out for themselves only. I'm looking out for myself. You're looking out for yourself. Do you need to be rich to look out for yourself? There are people in the middle class making $40,000 a year who, guess what they're looking out for? Themselves. So this whole concept of the rich only care about themselves. Last time I checked, poor people only care about themselves. People who are living at lower class care about themselves. Middle class care about themselves. Upper middle class care about themselves. If you make $100,000 a year, you care about yourself. Why is this frame that only the rich people care about themselves? Everybody only cares about themselves. Now, name 15 people who are not in your immediate family who care about you. Name them. You can't because there aren't 15 people. Everybody only cares about themselves. So this is a false frame that somehow has been sold to a whole lot of average thinking people that rich people only care about themselves as if everybody else in the world is all altruistic and trying to help everybody. No, you're not. You're caring about yourself.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay?
Andy said, pragmatism is what Republicans dealt with during the Biden administration. What do you mean? Lala said, take taxes. Why somebody that makes very little pays more than a person that has so much? Well, Lala, that's just completely false.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay?
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Now, that's going to be the non sequitur sound when someone just says something that just doesn't make any sense. So, Lala, what you just said is factually false. The majority of money that the government collects in taxes comes from the top 1% of income earners. That's just a statistical fact. So what you're talking about is that people who make very little pay more. You can't because you don't have anything. If you make very little, how can you pay more in taxes? You ain't got no money. How are you paying more in taxes? That doesn't even make sense if you just think about it rationally before you make this post. Your Honor said, oh, yeah, liberals aren't pragmatic because they didn't want to elect a 34-time felon. Listen to you. Oh, straw man.
Strawberry cheesecake.
I never said liberals aren't pragmatic, first of all.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay?
When I say pragmatism, I'm talking about my view, and I'm explaining my view and calling it pragmatism to help you all understand that even though things are not perfect, you still have to adjust to the way things are. And liberals, the liberal political left is specifically what I'm saying, not just liberal people in general, deciding that they're going to go against anything that Donald Trump says is not a smart move, in my opinion, because they don't have an identity. That's been the issue. Not because they didn't vote for whoever was on the right. It didn't matter who was the last person to run for the Republicans. Who was it? Mitt Romney. So let's say Mitt Romney had run this year. Liberals wouldn't vote for Mitt Romney either. So it's not about the 34-time felon. So you're throwing that in there to try to make him look more crazy. I get it.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
Then you got to ask yourself, where'd those felonies come from? Again, that was something that, first of all, normal statute of limitations was up. Secondly, that normally would be a misdemeanor. Third, they revived it and turned it into a felon in order to get Trump. It was all political lawfare, and everybody knows that it was. Andre said, do you think the tax system needs to be updated? Well, that's not the topic here today, and I haven't done enough research or thinking about that to even give you a useful answer to the question. Your Honor said, Trump's attorney got to approve the jury, too. Don't commit crimes in New York if you don't want a New York jury. That's false.
Strawberry cheesecake.
Attorneys don't get to approve juries, Your Honor. So this is a second comment of yours that I'm addressing, but you say anything else ridiculous is not getting responded to. The attorneys on a court case do not get to approve the jury. What they get to do is go through and they get to strike any juror that they don't like. The problem is you only get a certain number that you can strike. So let's say the number is 5. So you got to go through 100 jury members of the jury pool, and you get to strike 5. But after you strike 5, you can't strike anymore. So you have to be conservative, let's just say, for lack of a better term, with which ones you strike. Because if you strike too many and then another one comes up that looks crazy, you can't strike them because you used all your strikes already. So no, you don't quote unquote approve the jury, because if you approve the jury, you would just pick a bunch of people who are going to go for your client. If that was the case, then Trump would have won the case. The fact that he didn't win the case is that probably should show you, just thinking logically and rationally, that he didn't quote unquote approve the jury. That's not even the way jury selection works. John, thank you for the share. No, K-Town Mo said that's so untrue. All right, this is another one. At least this person, Your Honor, who I was just reading their logical fallacy, even though it was completely false, they spelled out what they disagreed with. A bunch of y'all just being passive aggressive. Passive aggression doesn't work over here. Tell me exactly what your disagreement is. Areno, thanks for the follow. Mike SC, thanks for the follow. Nana said, I wish he would stay. Get your bags, dummies. No, he's not staying. He's too old. I think he needs to go. 2 terms is enough for everybody. Kuya Ben, thank you for you joined. Nana Cat, the strawberry cheesecake. Terry said, Governor usually cleans up the streets a year prior whenever a country is hosting the FIFA World Cup. Okay. Frank Slowinski, Young O Genius, thanks for the follow, both of you. Tammy said, isn't Newsom Pelosi's nephew? I think I heard somebody say that a couple days ago. Laughing Puppy, thanks for the follow. Your Honor says the pool is chosen at random, not the actual jury. No, the pool is not chosen at random. You have to go through a vetting process before you're even in the pool. And then, well, actually, the pool could just be all the jurors that get brought into jury duty that day. And I don't know if we can say that's necessarily random. Then they go through a vetting process. Then there can be another vetting process. Every state does it differently. And the pool, as far as the actual jurors, they're not chosen at random because the attorneys can kick anybody out that they want, as I already explained. John said, I'm Hispanic and have nothing to hide. I shouldn't care about profiling. I get what you're saying there, John. And even if they were doing it in Florida to black people, and I know I have nothing to hide, I still don't want the concept of the cops could just stop me just because I'm black. I don't like that. So I understand why people could be pissed off at this. Tracy Twite Hooge, thank you for the follow. Reno, thank you for the share. Dana Pecan, good to see you in here. Dana Pecan. Tracy Twite, thank you for the share. Just E said, I'm confused. Is this person a conservative? No, I'm not a conservative. I'm not a liberal. I'm not on the right. I'm not on the left. I'm not Democrat. I'm not Republican. I'm on the side of objectivity and logic. So I'm glad that you're confused, because my points should not tell you that I'm on any side politically, which I'm not. As I already told you, I don't trust the government. So it was Bush to dad. Yeah, that's what I thought. Lee Barat said, whites are being profiled, not blacks. Well, everybody gets profiled. I mean, it depends on what type of profiling we're talking. Dana Pecan, thank you for the gifts, the hearts, and the goats. John, number 3, gifter Bass, thanks for the goat. Travis said, replacing Scalia. Was it Scalia? Okay. Liam Lisa said, ChatGPT is not without bias. So this is true, because ChatGPT is programmed by people, and people have bias. You got to ask it the right questions. Howie Wood said, I think people are confused about what the Supreme Court is for. Their job is to interpret the Constitution. Exactly. It's to interpret. And their interpretation is what becomes the precedent for future cases. That's the reason why we have people there and not just a supercomputer of AI just telling us the answers. Karina, thank you for the chili. We'll do a little bit more here, folks. My battery's dying over here, so we'll do a little bit more and we'll wrap it up. Andrew said, Trump and beyond, thanks for cleaning up our country. Justy said, monolithic. Okay, I got it. Louis Ron 4464, thanks for the follow. What part of DJT job is it to do the ish that he does? Well, what is he doing? Depends on what you're referring to. A lot of things he gets either credit or blame for, he's not actually doing himself. He just sends people to do it. I mean, it's kind of the role of being in charge. Karina said, Newsom is a complete joke, LMAO. Well, don't get cocky. He might become the nominee in 2028. Race car said, many of the politicians on both sides of the aisle are in politics for upping their bank accounts. Okay, I can't argue with that. And Karina 023, remember, that's the same thing people said about Trump in 2015. He was a complete joke. And then what happened? So don't get ahead of yourself. All right, where are we? A few more comments here, folks, then we'll wrap this up. Miss B, thank you for the follow. David said, vote for him to do exactly what he's doing. Yeah, and even if you didn't vote for him, he'd still be doing it. Dana said, people who insult you instead of having a convo is typical. Well, it's just normal human nature. I understand it. It makes it fun, though. Nana said, Obama said wanted a third term and got it with Biden. Okay. Then that could be J.D. Vance for Donald Trump. Uncle Trey said, racial profiling is protecting your rights. That's not what I said. That's a straw man.
Strawberry cheesecake.
Deb said, Trump stated he would be our last president. Yeah, if you take it out of context, he quote unquote said that. But come on, try harder.
My disappointment is immeasurable. And my day is ruined.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
Angelica said, my life is better because I'm safer because he's getting out illegal, violent criminals. Okay, I understand that frame. Chloe Arlene, thanks for the follow. Soy Latina said, these sounds tickle me. All right, I'll play another one just for you.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
Gita Lynn, thanks for the follow and the share. Barb Stribley said, you make so much sense. I love your logic. Thank you. Keep on Living said, I'm not looking out for myself only. Not true. Well, everybody says that. I mean, you ask a person, do you only care about yourself and nobody else? Nobody would affirm that. But if you look at most people's actions, 99% of what we do is based on ourselves. And then we look at other people who we don't like and we say, oh, well, they only care about themselves, as if we're not guilty of the exact same thing. Everybody only cares about themselves. And the quote unquote rich people that people tend to say only care about themselves, aren't they the ones who create the companies that create all the jobs that a lot of us work at? Nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about the thousands of jobs that Elon Musk is responsible for, but they say he only cares about himself because he has a lot of money. Well, how do you get the money? By building businesses and selling products and services that people are willing to pay for. But all of a sudden, he's only about himself. That doesn't even make sense. Kuya said, run for governor in North Carolina. I will campaign for it. I'm not running for governor. That's not happening. Keep on Living said, hey, you have the chicken. Stacy, thank you for the share. Movemaker said, Mitch said the GOP wouldn't approve anything Obama wanted. Well, that's the game. What did the political left say about Donald Trump? They said, resist, resist, resist. Didn't they say that?
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
Keep on Living Life said, so they do approve the jury. Well, it depends on how you want to split hairs in context, but I explained exactly what they do. The juror comes up, each side, the prosecution and the defense, they get to say, I don't like, either one of them gets to say, I don't like that person's gone. But they only get a certain number of those. So are they approving? What they're doing is approving by not disproving. So if you just take it out of context and say it that way, well, they approved the jury and you lost anyway, so that must mean you were wrong. That's a false frame, which is what the other guy was trying to say. You're trying to confirm it by pulling something out of context, and that makes it a straw man.
Strawberry cheesecake.
You said, so they approved the jury. Again, somebody else said the exact same thing, as I just explained.
Strawberry cheesecake.
You strike jurors who you don't like. And again, the argument was, just to make sure people remember, the argument was Trump's lawyers approved the jury, and then he got convicted of 34 felonies. So they were saying that in context as to mean that must mean every felony was legitimate because the jury got approved, which is a false argument. Again, it shouldn't even have been a charge of felonies. It should have been a charge of misdemeanors. And the statute of limitations was already up. So the approving of the jury is thinking past the sale, which makes it a loaded point. It's a loaded assumption to even say that. That's why those of you are saying so they approve the jury is not even the point. You're thinking past the sale. And again, that's how red herrings get built is people assume they accept one assumed false premise. And then we're arguing about something 3 steps down the road when the first step doesn't even make sense. That makes it a loaded assumption. And it also makes it a.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
Edwin said, those that resist Trumps are the profiteers that are poisoning the communities. Yes. Motivational Key said, pedo protector.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
That's funny. All right, a couple more, folks. I'm at 13% battery, then we'll wrap this up. Jeffrey D, thank you for the share. Edwin said, those that resist Trump, you already read that one. E8 said, the Supreme Court was lost when people decided not to vote for Hillary. I don't know about that one, E8.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
Hallelujah Mom says, since you have no political affiliation, do you vote? Which way do you lean? Yes, I am a registered voter, but I won't tell you which way I lean. My vote, my choice. Same way I wouldn't tell you my medical records. That's my personal business. User said, thank you, sir, for this platform. Well, I didn't create this platform. I wish I did because I'd be making a whole lot of money if I created this, but I appreciate what you're saying. Thank you. I'm glad you're here and you enjoy this live. Positive vibes. You laughed at something. E8 says, Steve Bannon said Trump will be president in 2028. Trump says that he has hats that will say it. Okay. Does that mean it's actually going to happen, E8? Really? Are we really doing this? Really?
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
Giegelman said that Trump tried to use his presidential immunity to get out of paying his SA adjudication. Did he try? Well, I don't know if that's what he tried to use, Giegelman, but I would say that if you got an $83 million judgment against you, would you try to use every tool in your toolbox to try to get out of having to pay it? What would you do? Or would you just pay it? So come on. Really?
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
Marky Man says Newsom's platform will be to undo everything Trump did. Well, anybody who wins on the left is going to undo everything Trump did. Doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't even matter even if they don't win in 2028, if it's 2032, if it's 2036. Whoever is the next Democratic president is going to talk about undoing everything Donald Trump did. Doesn't matter who it is. Donald Trump could be dead by then and they'll still do it. E8 says Steve Bannon is serious about Trump's 2028 continuation of presidency. So Steve Bannon could be serious about whatever he wants to be serious about. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, does it?
Yeah. Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
Murphy the Mutt said another great day of content. Thank you. You're welcome. Edwin, thank you for the follow. Let's see. 17 SC overturns SK8. What does that mean?
Can we look at some
SK8 said, yes, 1 second. SK8 said Newsom doesn't have a chance in hell. Right now he has a chance. It's early. It's only 2025. Okay, all that said, folks, my battery's about to die, so we do have to wrap this up. A couple things. First of all, you want to get my daily motivation text message. I send it out every single day for free. All you have to do, actually, I send my weekly motivation out every single week for free. Daily motivation you get in for $5 a month. All you got to do is send a text to the following number. Let me put it in the comments. The number is 305-384-6894. I just put it in the comments. I don't know if y'all can see my comment. One of the moderators, please put that number in the comments and pin that comment. 305-384-6894. That's where you can get my motivational text I send out every day. This is my book called The Third Day, The Decision That Separates the Pros from the Amateurs. This book is all about how do you show up and give your best effort when you least feel like it. The book is free. All you got to do is cover the shipping. Just go to thirddaybook.com. Can you tell people that it's free? Free. Say it louder. They didn't hear you. Can you say it louder? They didn't hear you.
Yeah.
He can't say it louder, but I can say it louder. Free. The book's free. Discover the shipping. Go to thirddaybook.com. The decision that separates the pros from the amateurs. Professional organizations, sales teams, they love this book because it's all about getting people to show up consistently to do their job. Mindset-wise, anybody want to get started on mindset? The Mirror of Motivation, the self-guide, self-discipline. This book is all about how do you be the best version of yourself so you can do what you need to do and have what you want to have. That's this book, mirrorofmotivation.com. Again, the book is free. Just cover the shipping. Go to mirrorofmotivation.com. I've written a bunch of books. I've written 41 books technically. So any one of these you go to, we're going to offer you more books because nobody reads just one book anyway. We usually send these out in bundles. So I don't mean more than one copy of the same book, but other books. I have a bundle called the Bulletproof Bundle, which includes my book on confidence right here called The Super You. And my book on mental toughness called The Mental Handbook. My book on personal accountability called 100 Mental Game Best Practices. That, along with this, the four of those become the Bulletproof Bundle, you can get all 4 together. Third day, we have bundles that you can get with that as well. For those of you who are more sales focused, money focused, Sales Discipline System, this book is about using the 8 key disciplines of top salespeople in any industry to say goodbye to up and down months and inconsistent habits. Get this book by going to salesdisciplinebook.com. Again, the book is free. Can you tell them free?
Free.
Yes, the book is free. Just cover the shipping. Salesdisciplinebook.com. And about 10 years from now, these live streams, I'm going to be sitting over there supervising. And this guy right here, he's going to be doing the live streams. Can you tell him you're going to be doing it?
I'll be doing it.
That's right. Yeah, he'll be doing the live streams in about 10 years. He'll be doing the live streams, and I'll just be coaching him on how to do it. But for now, I'll be doing them. Salesdisciplinebook.com is where you get this one. Mirrorofmotivation.com is where you get this one. This, the Super You, is part of the Bulletproof Bundle at Mirror Motivation. Then ThirdDayBook.com is where you get this. And again, to get on my text list, get my text community text messages that I send out every week and every day, go to 305, not go to, but text me, 305-384-6894. I'm going to show you the text right here. This is my actual inbox. I'm signed up for my own text list. And you can see the messages right there, 305-384-6894. That's where you can get these texts. I send these out every day and every week. Every day I send out the daily motivation. Every week I send out the weekly motivation. I send those out every Monday. Get on my text community for free. Just text me at my number, 305-384-6894. I'm going to show you right here my inbox of text messages. You see, these are people texting me back from all the people in my text community right here. So can you tell them to text me? Can you say text daddy?
Text Daddy.
Yes, text daddy, 305-384-6894. As you can see, these are all text messages that people have sent back to me from me sending out my text messages. Make sure you text me at my number, 305-384-6894, 281-330-800. Vote. Hit Mike Jones up on the low because Mike Jones about to blow. So text me at that number right there. You'll be in my text community. Get these books at the links I just told you, ThirdDayBook.com, MirrorOfMotivation.com. One more time, MirrorMotivation.com, SalesDisciplineBook.com. I will see you all tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. Topic to be determined. Maybe we'll talk about Donald Trump again. Actually, hopefully we'll talk about Donald Trump again because that topic tends to drive a lot of attention. We did 230,000 likes today. Thank you, everybody. Shout out to the consistent people, the moderators who've been in here, keeping everything in order and getting people to like the live. Shout out to the new people who are new. Shout out to the haters and I don't even like using that term. I shouldn't say haters. Shout out to the detractors. Shout out to the detractors. Can you say hi, detractors?
Hi, Lisa.
Hi to the detractors who disagreed. Shout out to the people who like the soundboard. Let me play a couple sounds off the soundboard as we wrap this one up. We're at 9% battery.
Strawberry cheesecake.
You like that sound?
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay?
Emotional, damn it.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
And we will wrap it up with a clapping sound. Thank you, everybody. See y'all tomorrow morning. Can you say bye-bye?
Bye-bye.
Look at the lens up there. Say bye-bye. You want to say bye-bye again?
No.
Okay. See y'all tomorrow. We out. Okay. Good job. Wait, did you eat breakfast?
Yes.
You did?
Here we go.
Okay. Wait, let me stop this. No, don't do that.
I was gonna stop it.
No, you don't know how to stop it. I will let you see zombies in 1 second.
I mean, zombie robots.
Okay.